And we are live. And let's check the mic first. Everything works.
no,
Let me
we're
know,
all
Cody,
good.
if something works. All good, perfect. So another TROM-Cast. This time we're going to discuss again about our new approach with trade as the source of most problems. And last TROM-Cast we discussed the trade-free website that we did, our approach, and maybe some people disagreed here and there, and we had a discussion with them. And then other people said that maybe we should discuss more about this idea of trade. Is trade the source of most problem? Is like most problems? Is maybe scarcity? Some people are saying that it's ownership. Some people are saying that it's profit. Is it important, or why do you others, or why do we focus on trade and not on something else? And let's explain a bit more what's our approach. Probably will be a long-term cast, we'll see, and we may have some other people who never joined the casts. We may have them join this cast, so we can discuss with that about that. And before that, let me tell you that we have so we have a book that describes this entire concept of trade being the source of most problems. It's over 1,000 pages long. It took me like a year and a half to make, and previous to that, I made a book called The Origin of Most Problems. You can find the links in the description of YouTube. And we also have, in the description, we have a post that I made on my blog to explain a bit why I came up with this approach, and like what are the advantages of trade versus scarcity. And we also have a short post by Sasha. She also wrote something about this. So if you want to go to those as well, you can go to that in the description. And anyone can participate via Jitsi. We do this every week. So if you have something that's important. So if you have something to say about our approach, or you don't agree with something, we have some tools that you can use to get in contact with us, because in the end, this is not a game of who is right. This is a game of let's understand how the world works and let's do something about it. And we have this TROM-Cast every week. Anyone can participate, and we do it through Jitsi. And now we are going to share the link. I'm going to share it on Tron Live, so anyone can participate. Give me a second, because then I will forget, and people will be like, I want to participate, but I don't find the link. No worries. 1 second. So we have this TROM-Cast that you can participate. TROM's Jitsi, and we have to put a password. If the passwords are weird, it's because of Cody. So
You better not have socks, guys.
yeah, this one is. Yeah. Give them the clue, Cody. Okay, hold on. So you can participate via Jitsi in our TROM-Cast every week, and you can also write an email to us at contact@tromsite.com, or you can join our Riot discussion group. We have a discussion group there. It's a public room, and we can discuss. So whatever we do today here, whatever we discuss, we can continue discussion, privately or more publicly on Riot or somewhere else. Okay, that being said, let's discuss again about this trade versus scarcity in a way, to see what we have to say. And we have basically, as far as I understand, Huri and Gil, you don't, maybe you will say that, can you say a bit about Gil? This is the first time that you participate to TROM-Cast, so I'll be curious to hear a bit from you, like who you are. Are you involved with TVP or with TZM, or what do you do? And we want to know a bit about you, if you can.
Hey guys, yeah, for sure.
I think your mic is
So
very, very low.
the audio is low. Is that it?
For me, it's a
Sounds
bit low. For you?
echoing.
Mhm.
Do you have headphones?
Okay, let me see if this works. This is better.
Yes, that's better.
I can hear him
Maybe it's
okay.
better. Yeah, even your camera doesn't work.
Talk
So.
more.
Okay. If it is still echoing, let me know, and I can switch to something that might not echo.
I think it's
Yeah,
fine now.
thank you so
For
much.
me, it's okay. But your camera doesn't work, just
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have a camera right now,
Sure.
but yeah, I'm a point of contact for TVP since 2015. I've been involved prior to that into TZM, the Brazil chapter in Rio de Janeiro, and right now I'm also I'm working mainly into two fronts. The first one is that I'm a project manager for the CFRM project for TVP, the Center for Resource Management project, and also I am the founder and the main executive of IDTRA. That stands for Initiative to Development of a Transition. More information regarding IDTRA, I think it's easier just to check iditra.org. But mainly is just a different approach, a different strategy to arrive at the same idea of resource-based economy that TVP has. And that's pretty much it. The big summary is this one.
Great, great. And I think you will say, like, you want to talk to me about this kind of trade, kind of approach, maybe for like, is it you that you emailed or send me a message and like a year ago? Maybe you are the reason why I started the book of the origin of most problems, because someone sent a message to me and I said, okay, I'll come back to you in like 2-3 weeks to explain this trade thing, but it took me a fucking year. So maybe it was you, I don't know. But
Yeah,
so
I
maybe you are
remember
the
that
reason why.
when I was developing the Iditra platform, I believe I reached out to you to understand a little bit more about how what you're doing there with Trom, and you had your hands full, and I was also getting a lot of things out of paper and materializing that shit. But I think we discussed a little bit about this concept, was like very quickly. It was just like passing through in the middle of some sort of conversation that we were having. Yeah, it has been a long time. I don't actually remember the details. The same as you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, then. So let's try to discuss about this. I'm not sure how to start. I will say like um, I would say, can you, because people might be familiar with Tron because it's TROM-Cast and those people are watching, can you explain like what is your approach? Like what do you work on and what is your approach there at the Venus project? Or and also with your project, what is your approach there?
Yeah, sure. So for TVP, being a POC, I think most of you guys might already know, so I'll be brief. It's just like being a point of contact or someone who helps facilitates the information directly from TVP to other people. So we kind of arrange events and do some screening and ask questions that are on our from our turf, and usually they're more basic, a little bit advanced regarding that. And we also have some interesting conversations and exchange of materials overall with other POCs around the world and help them out doing the same thing, so on and so forth. My role inside the CFRM is pretty much helping out the architectures and engineers teams with some knowledge regarding project management, and that's an entire cast just to discuss that. But the main thing there is just to help out with structuring and the processes, deliverables, and kind of making sure the entire team, not just me, of course, but making sure that we're advancing in a proper direction and making the proper adjustments and betterments overall in the regarding processes, regarding work done overall. And inside Iditra, the the drive from Iditra arose from the fact that there might be different ways to, as the proverbial Brazilian would say, to strip the cat, and that is just an approach more focused on individuals. So we have IDTRA is mainly educational platform where people learn some specific tools regarding nonviolent communication, biology in an applied fashion, psychology in an applied fashion, um, and the scientific method, critical thinking, and stuff that usually we kind of bump after we get older, and is the type of tools that we should have learned since we were kids. And after you go through the entire process, you get access to a full set of blueprints, so you can start to alleviate yourself from the system or get a little bit off the system by producing and automating the production of water, electricity, and food, and the whole and many other things. But the whole point is just to make sure that people have the same understanding regarding very basic stuff, and things that are real and truthful and factual at this point, at least in time. And also they can live a little bit better. And as soon as you start getting critical mass, as soon as people start indicating other people to have the same type of referencing, and getting more people interested in this type of thing, eventually we can keep on expanding. The strategy is pretty much based on that. The expansion, physical, both physical and the number of persons, the number of people involved, uh, up until a point where we can really start to have like not only people producing their food, but having full-fledged center of productions of food and industrial plants that would be aligned with resource-based economy, would be aligned with automation, 100% automation, and all those perks.
Okay,
So,
that's great.
so it's kind of like to educate people and then also have them trade less. Yeah.
The educational part is mainly regarding the systems approach. So people can, it's like, for people to trade less or not, I don't know. If people are able to trade less, that'll be fine. But one of the things that we are tackling is like people are usually egotistical. I'm not talking about people who are on this cast, obviously, or the small millions of people that are very willingly wanting to help other people. I'm talking about like trying to reach as many people as possible. And overall, people don't have time to help each other, or they're not that interested, or they cannot allocate a lot of time doing that because life is hard. So the main purpose of this is trying to focus on the individual and saying, if you benefit yourself, if you benefit your environment, if you look at yourself and something that people already do in one degree or another, you can actually move a little bit forward into a better world or resource-based economy, or call it whatever you want. And the whole point is, instead of trying to destimulate people from trading, would be destimulating people for needing to trade, needing to go out of the market and doing something specifically. Of course, this is still going to happen. You just wait for people to save more money, or to be able to work less, or change jobs so they don't like their jobs. They want to do something that doesn't pay that much, but still they'll be able to live fully and happily. And this is like, let's say, the second part of it. The first part will be for people to understand uh, some of these tools, because like if you're in a traffic and someone cuts you off and start getting pissed off, as soon as you understand the mechanics behind this, you'll be able to not that affect you. You will be able to understand that you are actually giving power to someone that doesn't even know you exist, and now you have corticoids, cortisol, and adrenaline rushing through your body, and your immunity system goes down only because you got pissed off because someone cut you off in the traffic. So those are specific tools that we will have courses for that, and eventually that is also a very transformative approach to the problem, by focusing on the individuals and making sure that they don't depend on anything on outside, or as not as much as they probably think they do. And
I think that's what
one interesting detail regarding this is the solution part doesn't matter how much money you have. If you have like zero money, you can actually uh, recycle things and still be able to produce your own water for electricity, or have a very, very low investment. And it doesn't matter where you live as well, because we are actually doing some of the prototypes. The sound that you're hearing on the background is just people helping out, producing some of those prototypes to make sure people see a full-fledged example, tangible example, just functioning overall, instead of me just rambling or showing nice videos or writing about this. Because usually people are more inclined into understanding something as soon as they're tangible and stuff like that.
Do you think this is similar to what we are trying to do with this kind of trade-free goods and services? Like, we create, let's say, a trade-free operating system and recommend trade-free apps, and we have a news system that people can use, for free, or we curate documentaries, podcasts. We do a lot of, like, in terms of educational aspects, so that people don't have to, like, give money or something away to Netflix or to Windows or to other kinds of online platforms, and they will have more time, because that's how I'm thinking. Like, if people have more and more of what they didn't want, in a sense, if they trade less in the society, you don't have to go to work that much, you don't have to get involved in this society that much to get something else in return, like you need, then people will have more and more time to get educated, and to be more mentally relaxed and accept new ideas and get involved with helping other people, or creating free stuff, or volunteering and so forth. Is this the same kind of approach, do you think?
I actually am very curious to understand a little bit more about the trade free idea that you propose. Sasha was explaining some of the things, but we were talking in a limited platform for to be able
Mhm.
to get details regarding that. And I think the byproducts might be the same, but yeah, it's if you're talking about empowering people overall, I think this would be a line for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
if,
I
if
think.
anyone, yeah.
So, I was just gonna say, I think one kind of important aspect of that is basically you're trying to get rid of, well, kind of free people up so that they have their own free time, so that they're not so dependent on trading most of their time for money, right, for work. So you have, if they live in a completely sustainable place, they don't they have more free time basically, and that's one of the aims, right, Gil?
Yeah, the aim is
So,
for people to be to not only need trade, they wouldn't need the system, or as little as possible would need the entire system
yeah, but I
as
mean,
an
the entire system is based on trades, so I mean that's kind of what I was trying to explain before.
yeah, I need to understand what you mean by trade in this concept, because uh,
So,
trade is not necessarily something that is intrinsic to the entire system, as far as I understand trade. But because there are some other things regarding the system that are not directly or indirectly related to trade, and they still are extremely prejudiced, and can make people do bad stuff or
Mhm.
create aberrant behavior and stuff like that. So the whole point of Editor is just to try to tackle all of the areas, not a major one, or one that's more specific to an individual.
Hmm. And when you say there are other aspects besides trades, of course, I agree with you, but I wanted to just give a few examples of that.
Okay, so if parents hit their kids because it's the way they learned how to raise them, because they were raised in that specific fashion, this is extremely detrimental. This is going to perpetuate aberrant behavior overall. But if people understand what is behind this, and if they also have more interesting approaches regarding raising their kids, you can actually break the cycle. Uh, Using this example, this would be breaking the cycle, and this has no direct correlation to trade in this specific environment. It can have a very old component of trade. But on that specific example, if you're talking about a family and a kid and saying about values on, yeah, if you hit a kid, that's fine because my mother hit me and look how I am now. You have fallacies inside that type of logical construct. You have some other things that people usually lack whenever they are trying to approach a specific problem, like critical thinking and being able to inform themselves better instead of just trying to find information that correlates and enforces their own biases.
And
And
if you
those things
think
are
that
not
if those
related
parents
to
had
trade.
if those parents had more free time, like they didn't have to maybe be stressed by the work or having that and so forth, do you think that will reduce the likability or the possibility for them to be more violent towards their kids? Do you think that will reduce the this likelihood?
Yeah, for sure. But some, if because they have more time, they could be more patient. But sometimes this is just a value system. This is just something that they learned, and we are just sponges of our own environments. We just absorb things and create tools based on that, and try to approach solutions the best way we can based on those things, based on the things that we know, and we eventually agree or disagree based on other things. So this is just a chain reaction overall. So the value system, let's call it like this, or the value ways, the value approaches that we usually have, they are all borrowed from things that we cannot control, or even sometimes we don't even know that we are being influenced by that.
Mhm. I agree with you that besides trades, there are all kinds of other influences in our society that create problems. For example, you can take some religions or some all kinds of weird notions and maybe patriotism and maybe stuff like that. And I of course I agree with that. I That's why I even named the book "The Origin of Most Problems" because I was saying, of course, the way that I see this society that is based on trades, whenever there is a trade there, it's an imbalance of power. It doesn't matter if it's between an individual and a company or between two companies and between two countries. And this is because we say is a source of most problems. Of course, in a way, we ignore the other ones that are maybe educational problems or all kinds of value systems. But I do that because I want to not mix it with other kinds of notions. I do that for TROM. We talk about language, we talk about human behavior, but I want this new project to be all about this massive problem of trade or of this imbalance of power. And I think because I think focusing on to me focusing on many things, this is one thing that I got confused with TVP, and other people got confused when I tried to explain to them, because TVP talks about many things, and in the sense it's great because you get to learn about human behavior, and you get to learn about language, and you get to learn about um, uh, systems and cities and so forth. But in another sense, they will mix things up so much that you might lose the coherent a vision of what you are trying to do. So I feel like if you mix too many things, you will kind of break apart. That's why the focus, that's why I want to focus. And that's why I made a new website and a new approach there. Trom is Trom. Tromits will still focus mostly on this trade as the source of most problems, but also, like you said, on the value system and all kinds of influences, cultural influences, and so forth. So, do you think that you see the maybe the advantage of also focusing on this kind of thing? And I want other people to get involved also. You can reply like Yuri if you want to get involved with other people. But this is the approach with Rom. That's why I wanted to, in a way, break them apart, but still have them married with each other. Because if I mix too much stuff into one thing, people will get confused, I think, and you don't know exactly what you may try to do because you go to too many directions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, any approach that is aligned in one way or another is interesting. We have many different approaches to different problems, and this is something that I thought a lot internally with myself because, yeah, I can just go help people in some other country with protecting animals there, or I can try to uh, help distributing food in African countries. And you have different problems nowadays, and you have different approaches to each one of those problems. My personal main concern was like, there are very few people that are tackling the problem as a whole, and I felt that they needed some sort of more backing up, or this problem needed an approach that I could give. So this is where I tended to focus overall, and I just one day I just said, yeah, I'm just going to be full time or as much as possible trying to figure that bigger picture problem. Uh, but the TVP approach is, yes, it is more holistic because from their understanding, and that is something that I agree, as soon as you try to tackle one problem, you're going to figure out that there are multiple vectors creating or feeding that problem. And one thing that Jack did brilliantly was to figure out the entire web of the causalities and the root causes of many of those problems. And whenever you solve the root causes of problems overall, every byproduct that those products generate, they end up completely vanishing. So this is pretty much why I think TVP has a great idea behind backing all the approaches that they do. And specifically on the issue at hand, talking about trade, and I definitely will want to focus more on that because I have a very short time here. I'm afraid I won't be able to stick out to the for the rest of the cast. But regarding the issue at hand, like yes, you're talking about your approach to the problem, and I think it's valid, of course. But I would like to just ask, like, trade apparently is, from you guys' understanding, it's something that if you tackle that as a problem, you'll be able to create some sort of ripple effect or create a cascading effect that could change the entire landscape. And I would like just to ask you guys if, despite possible solutions that I also understood that there's not something that you guys managed to map as of this point, but uh, shedding a little bit of more light regarding this, what, from your perspective, is the cause of trade?
I think the cause of anyone wants to reply. If not, I can.
I mean, at this point, it's just a way that we distribute resources and that we have to get access to things. But I think originally it was due to scarcity. But obviously, with our technological capabilities, we don't really, scarcity can be eliminated, and therefore trade can be eliminated. Like, in fact, trade is harmful in every aspect. We can see that. So I don't know. Like, that's the way to simplify it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what we were talking about in our private chat before, that like Gil and Yuri were mentioning that, okay, I mean, the reason that trade does exist because I mean, we talked about this in the last cast too, is because something is scarce. So there's something scarce in this world, and that's why companies trade. That's why everybody trades, right? Because they still need something. But like as I was saying before, I just think it's a dead end problem, because that means that as long as we don't have an abundance of absolutely everything that anybody could need and want, then we won't be able to tackle the problem. And I just don't see where you can go from there.
And to put my input, if I of course I explained when I wrote the money game and beyond, and it was part of TVP magazine back then, and was seen by Jack and Roxanne, and they agree with it. Not that we need Jack's and Roxanne's approval for like something that could be like scientific and sourced, but I'm just saying. And yeah, I understood that when I wrote up this book about money, that yes, probably it's very likely that trades originate from scarcity. People don't have enough or don't have access. This is another problem, because you can have an abundance of stuff, but you don't have access to that stuff. Probably originated from that. But if you look at today's world, we are like how much, like 12,000 years later since the first kind of currencies were invented. Today we have an abundance of stuff. I mean, if you look at it statistically, There are more homes than homeless people, more clothes than people can wear, more food than people can eat. I live here in a city where it's full of apartments and full of boats, for example, but I don't have access to them. It's not a scarcity in that sense, or maybe you can define it as a scarcity for me, but it's not, because I have access to them. The problem is that I have to trade something. That's where it clicked in my mind. I was like, okay, so the problem here is that we have this abundance and we have people. In order for people to access abundance, they need to trade something in society mostly. It may not be the case for entire, like maybe dictatorships and so forth, but in the end, you have to trade. If I have the enough power to trade. Now, if I had 100,000 euros, I can get a boat. I can get an apartment, but I don't have that much power. And because I don't have that much power, these resources are wasted. And it's an empty city here. It's like tens of thousands of apartments empty because people cannot trade in this society to get them, or boats and so forth.
Here's kind of an example to, focus more on trade rather than just money, because even if you didn't have 100,000 euros, but you had like this reputation, or say like you had 5 million followers on Instagram, you might be given a boat because you can trade your,
Influence.
you can advertise for them, you can do all these things, and so that's a trade right there, and it gives you access to things. There's no money exchanged at all. So, I mean,
I agree completely that scarcity creates problems and it leads to trades and so forth. It's just that I focused a lot on scarcity for the past years, and I try to understand what's the solution. And I could not find a proper way forward, because I realized that we already have an abundance of stuff and goods and services, and we have to trade for them. So I said that it's a better approach to do it like that. I don't disagree with the idea itself that scarcity creates problems and so forth, but I think it's a much better approach in this sense, because when I talk to people, and I was a TVP, and I was talking to people about scarcity and then abundance, we need to create an abundance of this, of that. Pretty much, like, maybe most of people were like, what the fuck are you talking to? We have an abundance of stuff already. You want even more abundance? And abundance is always relative to the society. In today's society, maybe 5 cars for one human being is not abundant. Maybe they want 7 cars. And because of trades, because companies want you to buy their stuff and so forth, wants in this society are infinite. You can give to a human being, you can give access to an abundance of, let's say, clothes, but companies are going to make this human being even more inclined to buy even more clothes, the newest ones and so forth. So I think it's hard to get somewhere. I don't disagree, but it's hard to get somewhere through scarcity, and the solution is to be abundance. And maybe here, if you want to put some input into this, and because I think that maybe you disagree, and I want to hear Gil. I think his connection
Yeah, I don't
has
see
dropped.
Gil
I
here
think
anymore.
Theory also had some bullet points in mind too.
Guys, I have a interesting thought experiment when I keep thinking about whether trade came from scarcity or is Gil back?
I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I'm sorry guys. My internet here is very shitty. I'm in the middle of the mountains here, and sorry for that. I'm back.
Yeah, so you didn't get the part that we explained about. You didn't catch that part, right?
No, I got as soon as Sasha started talking, my internet just went completely dead here.
Mhm.
Just to
So I pretty
summarize
much
it in
lost
extremely
everything.
like in one sentence or something, I was saying that I focused on the scarcity and abundance. Scarcity is the problem, and I wrote about this in TBP magazine and so forth. And abundance, like an overall solution to this kind of scarcity problem. But I realized that in the society that we live in, we have an abundance of stuff. Like statistically, we have more cars than people can drive, more homes, blah, blah. We can look at that. The only problem here is that I cannot access them unless I trade something. And I think that's where it clicked into my head. And I said, okay, what if we focus more on trade? Because if you focus on trade, we already have abundance. So it's a way to distribute this abundance in a trade-free manner. That was the point.
So your frame of reference is the status quo as we live right now. We have an imbalance of goods and services in one tip of the scale, and on the other one, you have a extremely high demand for those goods and services. Would that be a correct assessment?
Uh, It depends. The fact that we have to engage in this game of trading. It makes people want infinite ones in this society. Of course, they always will want more and more and more because they are influenced by this society. So I think in that sense, it's hard. It's not impossible to create an abundance in this society because people will never have enough. Companies will never have enough. They can grow infinitely.
Yeah, and don't forget that demand is also created. I mean,
Yep.
companies push people to want more crap that they don't actually need. And I mean, I think that's also a result of the need to trade because they're just trying to get more and more money. And how do they do that? Okay, they create this artificial need of useless crap.
I guess. Anyway,
Even
hi
if
Gil
something's
first.
abundant. Yeah, go on.
Sorry. Hi Gil.
Yeah.
I saw your video on YouTube. I think it was the transition day video. I didn't watch all of it, but I really liked it. I checked out your website a little later on. Saw what you guys were trying to do. So correct me if I'm wrong. You're basically trying to give people some tools that they can use for themselves to minimize their reliance on the existing market systems. Is that right?
The tools that we are trying to offer, they are in intangible tools. They are tools regarding value system. And after
Right.
that, we offer blueprints of sorts or some of the research and development that we're currently doing, so then they can get more independent of the entire system.
Okay. So but I don't want to inconvenience you, but can you tell me what you mean by the system?
Capitalism,
The market system.
not only the market system, I mean the entire system. Like if you're talking about the political system, for one hand, it's going to depend whether you live or not,
Right.
whether you live in the world, and if you're involved in that or not. But the main focus is not the blueprints. The main focus is the shift in the value system that people currently have.
Okay. And would it be accurate to say that, according to you, it is more important that people buy into a certain set of values before they have access to these blueprints, simply because the blueprints would make more sense if they were already convinced of certain values?
Yeah, because it's from that train of thought that if you give technology to people, good
Mm-hmm.
technology, you're eventually going to reinforce those values that are already in place. So it doesn't, by itself, it doesn't necessarily solve the problems. The problems are solved because people have different values in their head and they're living in a different fashion overall.
All right. So it would, to not to oversimplify, it would be like instead of handing people a hammer, you give them the instruction manual for a hammer first, and then you hand them a hammer.
I don't know. I would give a different type of hammer for now.
Yeah. I- No, basically, what I'm trying to get at is the process in which you want to do things. When you say that you will go through this stage of you will have this education, and that will qualify you to have access to these blueprints. And the blueprints give you the tools to make transformations for yourself that reduces your reliance on current systems. Is am I following you correctly?
Yes, yes, that'll be correct.
And, right. So, and that is only because you feel that if you made these tools available with no precondition, they may not be as effective.
Yes, those are based on historical facts overall and perceptions of dismembering the problem and trying to figure out a best approach that would fit as many people as possible. Yeah.
All right. So you're saying basically your tools are designed for some sort of precondition.
Yes, the tools are designed to be the next step or the second step people would be willing to take.
All right. And so is this a new approach in your opinion? where you tell people how to use a thing before you actually give it to them?
It's a what? Sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Is it a new approach? Teaching people how to do a certain, how to use a tool before actually giving it to them.
The approach might have some uniqueness or some novelty around that, but pretty much like 90% of Iditra is something that is already known, or it's
Mm-hmm.
out there, where some type of information, or it's created, and it's someone already knows some of the stuff that we have. The biggest part of the novelty is the arrangement of those things, and the sequencing, the chaining
Yes.
of those things.
Right. So you
I think
feel that you.
I,
Sorry, Theo, go ahead.
I want to say that we talk about a lot about the fact that you need both infrastructure and education. And the best examples is like if you take someone from a primitive tribe and whatever you consider primitive, like some jungle somewhere, and put it in New York, they cannot know how to use, they cannot know how to take advantage of this kind of system. So I think that yes, you need education and you need the infrastructure in maybe in the same amount of quantity. But I wanted to get back a bit to, because you had this you didn't understand maybe why we focus on maybe trade, and do you focus more like on scarcity, because this was like a bit of a discussion here. Is it trade, is it scarcity, should we focus on this or should we focus on that? Do you think that it's a correct remark when I say that we live in a society of abundance, but this abundance is distributed mainly via trades, and in that sense, that's why I'm focusing on trades. What do you say about that?
Yeah, and do you
Yeah,
have a good understanding of what we mean by trades as well? Should we also talk about that?
I think I do a little bit more at this point. But of course, you guys feel free to correct me if my assessment is incorrect. But based on what you're saying there, Tio, I would say that if you're talking about trade and trying to make sure people understand what trade is, and trying to stimulate them so they can trade less, you are pretty much talking about value system. You're pretty much talking about perception that people have regarding where do they fit in the world, and how can they create or execute different approaches regarding the problem. So in my assessment of what you guys are talking about is way more aligned with something related to the perception people has, hence value, than trade itself, because trade is something that eventually pops up. It happens because some other structure influence, in this case specifically regarding scarcity. On a second point, I agree that digital goods and services, they can easily be implemented trade free, as long as you are able to get the entire chain from the server side up to the service on itself. If you are able to run with the entire thing without going through the trade market, you would be actually doing something related to trade free, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
uh, because digital goods have this intrinsic characteristics or vectors, meaning they're bits, they're zeros and ones, they can be copied, and you eventually can keep the original, so they can be copied over and over. Another aspect of digital goods and services is that they don't if you create a copy, it's an exact copy. It's not the same as if you have a shoe from Nike and you're trying to create a copy of that, you're going to lose quality. Regarding digital goods and services, you don't lose quality at all. And regarding something that Sasha commented,
I think
and I agree that when you're talking about someone that has a shitload of money, that is a billionaire, a person, one individual that is a billionaire, there's nothing he would want or need that if he was billionaire less $100,000, or nothing that a trillionaire can do that a billionaire couldn't do. So the systemic approach to the goods and services someone can achieve based on the amount of money that they have, and we're talking about individuals, but also big corporations, comes to a halt, to a specific limit. And that limit usually is just a numeric threshold.
I want to correct
So,
something because it's
yeah,
a misconception there. A gluten-free product doesn't mean that the people who made the gluten-free product are gluten-free, or the entire factory relies on.
It's
You can go with a
it's
chain.
just the product that is gluten
The
free.
product that is for you is gluten free. It's same that for trade free. Trade free is between you and something else. Like Wikipedia, in more than one sense, for me is trade free. I don't have to give anything to Wikipedia. I don't care. I don't want to care where Wikipedia stores its stuff and so forth, or if they are paid or not. For me, it's a trade free service, and it helps me and other billion or so people. The same is for Doctors Without Borders. The same is for maybe Red Cross. The same is for many volunteers and open source world. And I think this is the big misconception here, because people may have this tendency to say, okay, PO, but you create a trade-free service, for example, but you also rely on a system that is trade-based. Yes, but I'm talking about this relationship itself between the service itself and the people who use the service. If this is trade-free, then I think this is a way for us to grow in the society, because you can never go with this chain of events to make everything trade-free from cradle to grave. I don't think that's realistic, and I feel like with abundance and scarcity, you may go into that direction but I don't want to go there for now.
Mm.
But I want to say, if you understand that a trade-free good or service is between the good and service and the users who use it, not whatever makes this trade-free good and service. Do you understand the difference there?
okay, this is a new information for me. Let me know if I got this correct, though. So the strategy, you're trying to tackle the problem based on individual versus individual being able to trade or not goods and
Right,
services overall. Is that
right.
correct?
That's right. You give individual people,
Okay.
you give individual people a way of like, say if they need to use a trade-free product, whatever it is, that product does not require the individual to give anything to have access to it, and
Similar
that's
like
what
Wikipedia,
trade-free
for
is.
example. Wikipedia, it's a good example because you can access their stuff, but you don't have to really give anything in return. I mean, they don't ask you, even on their page about, I think they mention, like, you don't have to trade anything to us, like no data, no money, we don't want your attention and so forth. So I think this kind of system, it's a big system. It's maybe a billion or two people are taking advantage of Wikipedia, maybe even more. And in the offline world, you can see systems like the best that I can think of is Doctors Without Borders, that treated 10 million people without even then. If you read the website and their statements and what they do there, they say that we don't care, we don't want anything from people. We don't care if you are from this political party or you have money or not, or we don't want anything from you. It creates this kind of trade-free system, between the people who create it and the people who need it or want it.
It's
Do you
basically
guys
cutting
have
off the
a,
middleman.
okay? Do you guys have any idea at this point of the scalability of this train of thought?
I think it's very difficult to like project whatever the scalability is, but I know that there are billions of people in the world who are profiting, in a sense, like take advantage of trade-free goods and services like the ones that I mentioned, or the open source world. And there are many others. I wrote a book about volunteering. It's like 140 million volunteers around the world full time. They do take advantage of such things. You can never create them perfectly. Let me give you an example. For instance, here in Spain, the healthcare system it's more on the trade-free spectrum. For example, I can go to the hospital and they ask nothing from me, and I get a treatment, I get care, I get everything. It's much better than in US, where you have to trade a lot. You have to trade your time and energy to make a shit lot of money, and then go to the hospital, and those people want your money, and this incentivizes them to send you to more tests, to maybe not do proper science or be proper doctors. It's a perverse incentive. So between these two systems, one is less based on trades and one is very based on trades. Like I give many examples in the book. It's a better system where there is less trades. It's a better system. You can never create a perfect trade-free system between the system itself and people. the one who provides and the one who receives. So that's why my point is I'm not going high up and say we need to create a perfect trade-free system. I'm saying the less trades, the better the system. And I don't care how you do that trade-free goods and service, because you cannot put barriers to people. If you start to put them and say you can only create this trade-free system if you rely on other trade-free systems, I don't think you can go anywhere in this world, because it's too much of a chain of events.
So
I
Gil,
also really like. So I was just
sorry,
going to say
Sam.
also, I think it's important that in the origin of most problems, Theo kind of stresses that, okay, we need to focus on the problem. Okay, maybe we don't have this like big plan, we can't dream about this entire big plan of what the solution will be. But if we focus on the problem and if we let more people understand that this is in fact a problem, then people will look for solutions once they realize that this really is a problem. So
And also, I think it's to, and I heard this word used earlier, empower people to let them know that they can, get involved in some way. And, you can do things on an individual level, but the chain reaction will start, once people become more empowered and see examples and, understand how this can help a society. And I think it's really important to empower people, because there are just so many people out there, like myself. I feel like I'm fairly educated on the subject, but there are times where I feel totally empowered and frustrated, and like, it's not that I don't care, but I just don't feel like I can do much, because I look around and I see like, holy shit, there are a lot of problems, where do I even begin? But then if I look at something like trade free or TROM-Site, I become empowered again. And I know that, okay, there are people out there that are working on stuff, and whatever I can do, if it's just writing something, there are things that people can do, and I think that's important too.
yeah,
I
because
have a
another important
question. So, sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
just real quick, I was going to say just another important aspect of this it's not just creating some trade-free thing. It's creating this trade-free thing and at the same time talking about the problem, spreading this message. So go ahead, Shri.
So Gil, your question was about scalability, right? So let me ask you this. What do you think of an idea that can be applied to many solutions compared to ideas that can be applied only on a specific solution and case by case basis? Which is more scalable?
Yeah, I was asking about scalability, just to try to understand what Theo was actually answered the question in a different way.
Right.
But regarding your question specifically, I think that the problem itself, as TVP has in their core, is multifaceted. It has way too many variables for you to be able to create an equation that is going to solve the state that we are right now, in order to change things in a systematic way. That there are no problems in between, or there's nothing else happening, because eventually what you're going to do is you're going to create imbalance from one problem to another. Uh, but and the same thing applies with IDTRA. IDTRA is just a different strategy, trying to tackle the same problem, going instead of in a broader scenario, going to a very tight and microcosmic type of scenario. And regarding what Tia was talking about, so let me see if I understand it correctly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But you're talking about that the chain of events would be something like somehow there is abundance happening, and I'm just coming from the premises that scarcity leads to trade. So the opposite of scarcity would be in this case abundance, and somehow abundance happens, or someone is giving out their time or giving out the resources they already have or they manage to get from any type of source. And as soon as that person has enough, they, instead of trade that to perpetuate some specific cycle, they are giving that for free without barter, without trying to get something of equal value in return. Is this assessment correct?
What I'm saying is that we have an abundance already of goods and services. Like statistically, we have an abundance, especially today with the digital world. Like you said, you can replicate something a billion times without like zero marginal cost, basically. And we have this abundance. And I'm saying that if we force this idea with trade free, you kind of unlock this abundance because you kind of force this redistribution of this abundant goods and services to people in a way that is trade free, in a way that they have access without giving anything in return. That's what I'm saying here. It's this link between the abundant stuff and services and people. This link is trade mostly in our society. So it will lead to abundance. It's very likely because we already have an abundance goods and services. That's very likely. It's not maybe entirely true. Maybe you can make trade-free goods and services that are not abundant because your resources don't allow to be abundant. But I think it's a much better way than just trading those resources, even if they are abundant or scarce.
So would be like if someone can actually uh, uh, trade free, they would be solicited, or they would be stimulated to do something like this. Is that correct?
I don't understand. I don't
Yeah,
get
because
it.
what I'm trying to create a mental image of some sort of equation, some sort of way to understand the causalities that what you're talking about here. And I'm
I can
afraid I don't
help you
have
with
like,
that.
but maybe
Really?
on the next TROM-Cast, jump in and have more time
Yeah.
to discuss this further.
Okay, do you have time for a quick thought experiment?
Yeah. If you guys could give more examples, especially outside the realm of digital goods and services, that would be great.
Sure, okay. Sure, okay. Let's do this. This is a forest. Okay? Now there are three people. Now one guy goes to the forest, pick up some sticks, and he brings it back to where the other three people are. The second guy uses these sticks to make chairs or whatever that they need out of wood. All right? And this keeps going on for a long time. They have everything that they need. The third guy one day decides that he'll take these sticks, right, and he'll ask the guy who makes the shit with sticks to make a fence and put a fence around the forest. Now he stands outside the only gate through that fence. Now every time the guy goes to pick a stick from inside the forest, he has to give this third guy something to go inside and then come back out. That is what trade is.
I think he's looking for like real life examples, not hypothetical. And say like anywhere you go, I think medical system is a great example because yeah, you have to trade so much of your information and time, and then it does affect the quality of the services that you're getting. Like even when I ride the bus, it's like supposed to be, a government provided service, but the whole time I have to listen to advertisements while I'm sitting there. It's just things like that constantly. Like everywhere you go, there's a billboard on the side of the road. I mean, there's just so many things that are constantly.
But on those two things that you're talking about here, the first one is like if you are inside a specific system. Let's say I for once lived in the United States, where my bus to ride home and to ride to work was for free. The calls that I made from landline were free for that specific city. We had a local paper that was completely, absolutely free for anyone to just grab a copy. But nevertheless, that thing was inside another system, and someone was paying for that, for me to have that benefit. So eventually, what happens there is you're actually reinforcing some water status quo, some water thing that is dealing with the fact that there's trade happening on the other end, or abundance happening on the other end. So you have this notion that you are getting that for free. And regarding billboards and announcements and stuff like that, this is also, as you eloquently put, it's also some sort of trade in case your attention and the possibility of you as a consumer spending money with that. And in exchange for that attention, they give you something for free. So this is just a perception. This is just a notion. You are actually part of this equation that is being able to create that billboard and show that to you, and that service lives through that dynamic.
Right. So it might be money free, but it's not trade free. You still have to trade something to get. It's just like, for example, there used to be this big festival and all of the concerts were for free, but you would have to go online and sign up and give all your information and, join all of these mailing lists, and they would send you all these things. And, before you knew it, you're spending hours on these websites filling out all this, and they knew everything about you. And then how is that really free, And then
And just one small point, and then Yuri, I will let you because you want to talk as well. Just a very small point for Gil. The reason why I also focused on trade is because in today's world is this massive confusion of what is free. Basically, nothing is free. Very few things are free. You pay with your data, you pay with your attention, we pay with even laws in a way are a way an agreement with a forced agreement in the state. They say you are free to go on our streets and visit our places, but you have to respect our rules. And we explain that a lot in the book. And I wanted to make this point that we also cut the confusion. It's very helpful, because we create, for example, trade-free software. And I will give you some examples because it catches up this idea a bit. I will give you later on. But Yuri, if you want to, sorry for.
Yeah, guys, I really have to go here, but I understood most of the points there. Some of my questions, I have relayed that to Yuri, so maybe he can keep on with the conversation, at least from my end, and I can check the recording later. And of course, in a future podcast, I think you can pick up from where we're leaving off here, because specifically today, I didn't have a lot of time, but I realized I didn't want to miss it. So thanks everybody for the great chat and the full discussion, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gil.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Yuri, it's the stage is yours now.
Let's see if my connection allows. But I don't know, so many things. I just wanted to preface by saying that a disclaimer. I sometimes help with Gil's project, and I know him so personally. So that's just a disclaimer. But we disagree on many things. So yeah, but he's gone now. The point is,
He'll see you later.
yeah. But so many points. I think that the thing about maybe where do we start? So mathematically you can express the idea, and I'm really curious about how you will solve this equation. So if we start, and if you tell me if it's okay to talk about this specific point now, but if we stop trading and people support the system for us, other people are paying, are trading for us. The more people not trading, the more the people that are trading will have to trade. So it's mathematically, the resources are not being, we're not using less resources. We're using the same amount of resources. The same systems are being provided. So the same amount of activity has to happen to sustain that system. So if less and less people are trading, they will have to trade more. It's just mathematics. So how do we solve that? So do we get to a point of, and I understand your point that the more we trade, so the services that these people provide, they also work in the system. So they will be also providing trade free. So some of the systems will be alleviated, but like healthcare, such a big system, people that work in healthcare, what if they just, okay, I get everything for free, so I'll just stop working.
I can give you an example. Taking into account technology, automation, and digitization. If we have a state-run healthcare, if it's quite trade-free on the trade-free spectrum, their incentive is to use less resources and less people, else they will be dependent on some. So they will digitize stuff. You will see here in Spain, for example, they have it quite automated, which is interesting. They give you it's digital. They work less people because of that. And you can automate like a doctor visit with software and so forth. So in that sense, it may not be true that the less people that trade, there will be the other ones who trade, they must trade even more, because you replace that with technology, with digitization, because it's an incentive where it's a trade-free product to make it more automated, not relying on other trades.
Yeah, and I think we have like right now, because of the need to trade, a lot of companies, like I said before, they push people to want more and more stuff to trade more and more, and they kind of fuck with people's minds in that way. So I think if there was less of that, people wouldn't feel like they need more of these things, like all sorts of crap, new electronics, new clothes, this and that. I mean, maybe if you just had what was useful, you can just use that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
less
good
people may
point.
want.
Concentrate on that.
I'm sure that
Less
if we
people
have
want it.
access now to trade free clothes, for example, let's say worldwide, I'm sure there will be many people who will still buy clothes because they will be incentivized by other companies who sell clothes. But I will say that there will be less than there are today. So this problem is not you don't go to the absolute spectrum. I'm saying that it will reduce even the requests from people. If you provide trade free goods and services, it might reduce. I think it will reduce the reliance.
Yeah, and I mean, if you take something like clothes as an example, I mean, if you provided trade-free clothes, you would probably provide them to be good quality to last for a while. Today you can't buy shoes that will last more than a year, even like good hiking boots, because they make them so they fall apart basically, and that goes for a lot of other things. So if they weren't incentivized to sell a lot of these products, I don't think they would need to make fragile items. It would make good items, and maybe
Yeah,
people's minds will change. I think that's
I
the
think that
problem.
that kind of goes back to what I was saying before. Is like maybe if you can just inspire the right person that knows how to make certain things to just start doing these things without uh, the force of trade behind as their motivation, then it could be a chain reaction, and it just has to start in small ways, because I don't really envision any sort of transition, or like people are just gonna like snap out of it one day and be like, oh, I'm just buying these things because I'm being sorry.
no, yeah. I mean, I think that's a misunderstanding that many people uh, make. That I totally agree with. There's no snapping out of anything. But I think the thing I see differently is that we're constantly transitioning to some place. We're going from point A to point B. And the idea is how do we direct to a point where we actually want to get to,
I don't
not
think
a
there's
point
any
of destruction.
specific answer
Where
for
do
that.
we want to go?
There's no specific. I mean, I feel like if it were that simple, it would just be like, you know.
And there's
But
no point we actually want to get to. We just want to move to a saner direction. Sorry, Jen.
Sure, yeah, I'm talking about vectors, what direction, and then we find out. But there are goals that don't seem to be changing very much, like feeding everyone. Like feeding yourself is a necessity. If you don't, you die. So I guess surviving is a desire, right? So surviving requires water and food, and also shelter is a contributing factor. So these things can be pursued. So we don't say, well, okay, guitars or things like that. No, I mean, guitars for everyone. That's not the point. It's what do we provide as essential? Essential being that you need to survive, that you don't produce in your own body. So and then that's the platform. But the thing about incentivizing for me is that's what I'm interested in. How do we incentivize? I'm sure we need to incentivize, and I'm sure want to get rid of trade. But trade is a system, and scarcity is not a system. So they're different things. Scarcity is a reality of the environment, and it depends. And here's the thing for me: it depends on many factors. It's not just the availability of a particular resource, the amount or the availability. It depends on the technological capabilities as well. And I'll give you an example. But if you gave an example that uh, clothes are not scarce, they're abundant, or food, but people don't get access to them. So it's not abundant for them. So it's not abundant in terms of access. So it depends on the availability. The same thing about, I gave an example, I'm not sure if you all read this, but hydrogen is abundant in the universe, but it's not, relatively speaking, it's not here on Earth. So, but so it's scarce here. But if we have the technological capabilities to go and get this mining the entire universe for it, it suddenly becomes abundant. So it's not really amount; it's also the accessibility.
Yeah,
So
that's the point. That's the point precisely. There is no scarcity of resources or commodities or goods, but it's the scarcity. Let's not say scarcity. The only way that we have access to these resources and commodities right now, that link is trade, like Theo said, right? And that creates this perception of scarcity in many cases. In fact, scarcity is manufactured because the link is trade, the nexus, you can say, between the people and the resources, between people and services. The way we go about this access is trade, right?
I
And
think
that's
it's
the
confusing if you focus on scarcity because I think it's hard to provide many examples of real scarcities because it is the debate between real scarcity and artificial scarcity. Pretty much in our entire world, you can call that artificial scarcity. For example, like websites that have, let's say, a PDF, and this is with a research, and they put a password there, and you can only access with a whatever. It's an artificial scarcity in a sense. You can define that because they can make it available for everyone, but it keeps it scarce. However, I think it's a very confusing way of saying it, just because we have so much stuff in our world. It's a car is accessible to me right now if I had the money. If I had the money, it's accessible. There are other kinds of scarcities that is not accessible. Like, for example, it's not accessible to go on Mars right now. It's not accessible to me. Even if I had all of the money in the world, no one will probably get me to Mars. There are real scarcities, like in some African countries, they don't have access to water, clean water, and this is a direct maybe scarcity because it's a scarcity there locally. But globally, it's not a scarcity. Globally, we could provide water for these people, but because they are so poor, and then I cannot trade much for that. No one goes there to give them the water. But if they will be rich, you will find some people who will get there the water, you see? So in that sense, I feel like we have an abundance, and what stops us from getting to this abundance is trade. That's why I'm focusing on trade. And tell me, Yuri, like, how would you think will be a better approach? Like, do you think this thing with scarcity will be a much better approach, and how would you go about that?
yeah, first I looked up poor, the definition, having insufficient wealth to meet the necessities of comfort of life.
right.
So so it's a scarcity of the resource. You don't have the amount of resources necessary, or in this
Mm,
case, wealth, meaning money, to
That
get resource.
which is
So
not the resource itself; it's a proxy. It controls access
yes,
to it.
yeah, absolutely. But you don't have access to it. You don't have enough. If you had, if there was an abundance of money in your account, you could get the resource. So okay, again, it's a proxy. We can go, boil down to the base, which is the resources. But your question, I would say scarcity is a better understanding because it's the cause for the system to, and we talked about it, and I think we all agreed that it generates a need for trade. But then the question became, okay, where do we focus on to actually solve the problem? And that's why I think it's important to focus on scarcity. And again, we can go deeper, and the real problem is the next level is ignorance, because if we were all well informed, we would be solving this very quickly. If we knew the problems, what the problems were all, and the solutions, right? So it is really ignorance. But to the system, and that's a reality of the environment, get to deal with the resources, the availability. But I think it's much better because it's the cause of the need for trade. I want to get rid of trade. We're not disagreeing on that, but it's the cause for the need of trade. So actually, Sasha mentioned, if you don't mind me mentioning that example that you gave the example of, do you mind if I mention? Because it
No,
was
Yeah,
in
no,
no
please
private.
problem.
go, go
Go,
ahead.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, because it was in a private chat. But uh,
No,
it,
please.
it,
Yeah.
okay, so it was an example of, okay, if you get rid of trade, to get rid of trade, the thing has to be abundant anyways. You're creating abundance anyways to be able to get rid of trade.
I mean,
So
if you get rid of Bitcoin, go on. Yeah. I'm just
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
if a product is trade free, it basically has to be abundant, most likely, most of the time. So yeah, go on.
yeah, yeah. So that's why to me it's important because it let's get rid of trade. keep the name, keep the focus. But how? Okay, we provide an abundance of the resources that we don't want to trade. We don't want to stop trading, So that's the point. And I think your approach by trying to provide trade-free goods and services, you are providing abundance. So that's why you're able to provide it trade-free.
Sorry.
That would be like a
Maybe.
sorry, just say that would be like a mechanism to provide any particular good and service. So you need, if you want to give away, and if you want to give trade-free bananas to people, then obviously you need an access to an abundance of bananas so you can give them away. So but that's a mechanism to get rid of the trade. Sorry, you guys wanted to say.
That's what we're lacking is access, not abundance. Access
Hmm.
to the abundance. The abundance exists. It's the access is the hard part.
And how do we provide that access, abundant access?
Maybe I can
By,
answer to that.
by no conditions.
Aaron, please, yeah.
But
Don't talk over.
Yeah, well,
So-
let's think about let's say Google offers an abundance of cars. Okay, we offer free cars for people, but then what they do, they will collect their data. So they will put advertising in that cars, so people will trade their time or attention and so forth. But if Google says, okay, let's offer trade-free cars for people, trade-free transportation, then people won't get into this trade environment which pollutes them, which incentivizes the wishes for other things, and all this kind of influence by advertising. That's why I think that's the beauty of the trade-free idea, because it can scale up. Google or big companies, if they offer something really free, it's good. If they offer something free,
It's
it's
hard to hear you, Aaron. It's really.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, but did you got that example?
That last part.
I heard.
Yeah. Yeah, Tio, you maybe if you understand it, you can.
Yeah. I think Yuri, did you get it?
Yeah, I think I get. Yeah, I think you get the point.
Mhm.
But yeah, I totally agree. But my question is, okay, great, let's get rid of trade. But how do we get rid of trade? And the question here is, it doesn't matter how you do it. But what I'm trying to say is, and the only way to be able to get a trade-free system is that, okay, back there, we provide an abundance. Because then, okay, now we can provide trade-free because we don't have to worry about the running out of resources because we've got enough of it. So then we can provide trade-free. But so the real point.
I think I answer your question. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but if I don't say it now, I'll forget. I think what you're looking for is just like a big, massive, and that's why I say transition, just like it can't happen like that. The system is too complicated. The society is way too complex. There's too many things going on right now that it just has to happen like an evolution of something happening, just like any other problem we've solved. It didn't happen overnight. It evolved, with lots of people working on it, and it just became better and better with any kind of technology. That's just how things progress.
Yeah, and I have that understanding. I never mentioned that there has to be a transition that's like that. So I never said that. So
just to eliminate trade altogether, like we just snap our fingers, that's like impossible.
Yeah, I agree.
Like little by little, like creating TROM-Jaro is a great alternative to something that already exists. And in fact, from what I've read of people that use it, it actually works better and is trade free. So that's an example of a step forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and there are many operating systems that are trade free. I would say that you're providing more. It's already abundant in that sense. But I'm not advocating that I never mentioned anything about changing like that. What I'm trying to say is that the same thing you are trying to say, actually, you all, that we should focus on the problem and talking about the problem, so to come up with solutions and solve the problem. It's not that, let's just get rid of trade. And also, there's a misunderstanding here that that we're promoting, we meaning me and the other people talking about the idea that scarcity is a problem, that we're promoting that we got to solve everything every single thing in the world, provide abundance of every single thing. Otherwise, the problem is not going to be solved. I think that's a misunderstanding, because the things that we provide abundance for, then we can stop trading. The things that we don't. Just like the things that you stop trading, we'll have no trade. But the things that are not, that we haven't stopped trading, we'll have to trade. So, so I think there's a misunderstanding here, because it's physical phenomena that we're working with. If you can't provide an abundance of a particular resource, there's no amount of wishing that will provide that. Work on the technology. Until then, we'll probably have to trade that resource.
Wikipedia is lacking a lot of stuff. Wikipedia doesn't have access to abundance of whatever they need in order to create a trade-free group service. I lack resources, and I still create some trade-free goods and services. I don't think this has to rely on abundance to create a trade-free good and service. I think the trade-free good or service it could lead, if practiced by many, like we explain on the tradefree.org website, if practiced by many in long enough, could lead to more and more goods and services are trade free, and people rely on those instead of trading in the society, thus allowing them more free time to create even more of such things. And you can see such influences in the all kinds of examples that I'm always giving, from open source to whatever. That's what I'm. And one more thing, and you can say you said that we created on Java is just there are many trade operating systems out there. It's true. But the important thing here is the label, is the fact that we educate to such things. I know that it's just a small operating system, okay? I use the word with just a few people, but it's the label, And now we attracted the attention to, for example, the Manjaro team. And the Manjaro team was like, they are big. Manjaro is quite a big Arch distribution. And they got the attention. And now I'm talking to them. And maybe they said that the idea is very clear and very interesting. And who knows, it will maybe penetrate the society. And I want to put here an accent to this thing. Like, Yuri, this approach, I'm not sure if it's that well thought that we have or not, but what I'm saying is I think it's much better than anything I know. So if you know anything else, any other approach, I'll be very curious to listen. That is more interesting.
All right. Yeah, it's a lot. So yeah, in that sense, I would say that it's a little weird sometimes, because you criticize Venus Project, and I do as well. But you talk about how they're not focusing on the problem, and they're focusing on a layer above that. And also, more specifically to what you said, that they provide those designs, those concept art designs, and that's pointless. But you could say that it's education. It's providing a different way of thinking. Okay, we work from the functional perspective, on the functional basis, not on the aesthetics. It's not because it looks cool. So you could say that there's an argument that for educational purposes as well. So it's weird to me that you criticize and then you say, oh, we do the same thing. But I see an inconsistency there.
Don't put the criticizing on me unless I explain it, because I criticize TVP not for the educational aspect. I always promote TVP for the educational aspect. I criticize TVP for the way that it tried to go practice it. I criticize them that they want to build this big city to prove to the world how a resource-based economy works. And I'm just saying that I've never seen that in history ever, that you can change the society in this way, that the society is too complex. And I also don't trust TVP to do something, because I know TVP, I work with TVP for 4 or 5 years, and from my experience, I think they will go there. So that's my criticism, not the educational. I think it's great. The educational is great, and I will promote TVP all the time. Even today was a video on Trump created videos about TVP. We promote them all the time in the educational aspect. So just to clear that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I see that. I see you're mentioning the Venus Project, and yeah, but you were talking about, we were talking about before the.
But I say that TVP doesn't focus on a core problem, and we focus.
Oh, the approach, yeah. So yeah, the different approach that I would propose is first understanding that the problem, there's a causality issue here. If you don't solve what's causing the problem, you can't solve the problem, even though it's a problem. So in that sense,
like I'm not sure that's necessarily true. I mean, I would just give one example of okay, so, some trade-free service that maybe is not necessarily abundant, which is Doctors Without Borders. Maybe they don't have I don't know exactly how they work, but I don't think they have so much resources that they can provide healthcare for absolutely everybody. But they do provide this trade-free service for some people, so they are actually limited and they don't have an abundance of medical resources, but they still provide a trade-free service. And I still think it's much better to do that than to have, for example, the U.S. healthcare system.
Right.
Yeah, but do you know
So it
how?
doesn't have to be scarcity, I think. And
Well,
even if it is, I mean, even if it is, I think it doesn't matter that much, because then you have you have some kind of scarcity causing trade, but then again you have this force of trade that's forcing kind of more things to be artificially scarce to make people want more crap. So I think it's better to go for the force.
Yeah.
but it originated
And
with the scarcity. If you solve the
Yeah.
scarcity,
no, no, I don't think so. I do not think so at all. I disagree that it started with scarcity.
why? How?
It's easy to demonstrate.
Please?
So you have YouTube now. There is no scarcity of videos, but there are still preconditions to its access, preconditions to its audience.
May I just say something, because this is a great example that I've been
Right.
meaning just to talk about. There is a misunderstanding here, I think. See if you will understand. It's very nuanced, but it's not. There's not a scarcity of just videos. There is meaning abundance of videos, I should say. There is an abundance of videos in a platform that collects your data. So there's not an abundance of videos. There's an abundance of videos and so and so and so with those conditions. Videos provided within those terms of services. So there's not just an abundance of videos. So the idea is if you provide an abundance of videos with no conditions, then it's not collecting your data. It's great, right? So it's not uh, we have a scarcity of videos that or I should say the platform that doesn't collect your data.
But it's still
Um,
the idea
I,
that they
I,
provide to you. They don't put any barriers. That's the idea here. They don't create artificial scarcity. YouTube doesn't create artificial scarcity. YouTube says you have access to wherever you are. You get our videos, get them. But they still can inject in this abundance of videos that they have. They can inject all kinds of trades, and in that sense, it makes confusing. I understand your point, but it makes confusing to focus on scarcity. How would you approach this kind of example if you based on scarcity?
Okay, so basically, the idea is not assuming that me, the individual, can make something tomorrow that can fix the problem. The idea is that we have a huge problem and it requires huge solutions. So these are big, large systems, and they need to be refactored. So basically, how do we provide? We say, hey, folks, just go work on YouTube for free and don't collect the data, because don't trade anything. Just make the videos, make the platform for the videos, and don't collect any data. Okay, how do they get the money? How do they pay their bills? So we got to provide them with the resources. Okay, let's say we provide them with the resources, and so we got to fix all of that chain. And you said in a previous
No,
TROM-Cast.
I think you go to too many layers. For example, you want to know an example of YouTube that is trade free is archive.org, the Internet Archive. Or
It's not trade free.
well, it's more on the trade free spectrum. What do you trade
More.
today? Yes,
But you don't even know.
That's the idea here is the difference not between something that is trade based and trade free. It's always going like explain the book, but maybe people should read the book, because I give so many examples in the book. You don't have to go to the extremes here. You cannot go to the extremes, because of course you can then say that it's not trade free because I need a computer, because I need my eyes, because I need whatever air to
Because-
breathe. It's ridiculous to go into that direction. So I'm
No,
saying
but-
archive.org, because they don't want trades for people. Generally, they don't want trades. They make a system that is much more fair and much more correct for people, and compared to YouTube, who wants you to stay on their platform, wants your data, and they incentivize perverse behaviors from their part. And and incentivize people to put their videos that are clickbaity and all kinds of shit that will make people dumber and dumber. That's not happening on archive.org. So you have an example here. It's an exact example.
Yeah, but that example was not correct. That we have eyes and we, that's a biological level. We're talking about the operational society operational level. So if we measure that, we're framing the problem because you can go deeper forever. We
Right.
don't know the limits of the universe, the tiniest to the biggest scale. So we're framing the problem. What we have a society, meaning more than one person interacting and living, surviving, and doing good things, supposedly. How do we achieve that? So that's the operational level. Yeah, they're framing the problem. So in that
Okay.
sense, we're talking about, so you bring the eyes, that's biological. That's a whole different level. But the thing is, archive.org, you're moving the target here because first it was trade free, now it's not. So I would say it's not trade free at all because first of all, we didn't really know if it's trade free. Maybe it is, but I mean, it definitely is not because the servers are being paid for. But how do you know that they don't collect your data?
Okay. It's very easy.
Yeah, you have to make the difference here between when I'm saying it's a trade-free system, a trade-free service. It's trade-free for me. I don't have to give anything to them in order to get whatever they provide. I don't care where archive is stored. By the way, they store their servers in a church they run on renewable energy, and you have to see the documentaries. It's interesting how they proceed. They want to make it less and less reliable trades. They don't express them like that, but don't focus on that because you can always go so many steps ahead. Can you agree that archive.org, between me and archive.org, there are less trades than between me and YouTube? Do you agree with that?
No, because I don't have that information. Because they're talking about a documentary. That's a story. I work in filmmaking. I've done documentaries. You can manipulate very easily just by changing the order of things. And so definitely the story. So
are we real?
What?
Are we real?
Who knows, right? Who knows? But yeah,
No.
What is reality?
but we don't know. That's the thing. You're trusting them. And this is the thing. This is a big topic in computer science. Trust. There's no, you have to trust people. And you have to trust that the compiler that generates the program is not running a secret code that steals your passwords. That's the fundamental of every software development, the compiler. But you have to trust that, And so, yeah, trust. But
I think this is not an argument, Thierry, to say that I just trust that archive.org is not, maybe in the background they trade stuff, they want trade from people. If we go down that path, there is no discussion here because you can always come up with that argument and be like, okay, you cannot trust Doctors Without Borders.
It's unfalsifiable.
Yeah,
it's unfalsifiable. You can say,
sure.
like,
So
if somebody said,
you can't affirm.
No, the statement that you say that we can never know if archive.org is completely trade-free because we will never really know what their compiler is doing is an unfalsifiable statement.
No, it is falsifiable
if it's open source and they use open source software, so probably it's even
falsifiable. Not even. That's a mistake. The first one, because the open source is only when interfacing with the public. What they run in the service don't necessarily is the version they provide. So that's, again, but I'm not even talking about trust. I just mentioned that you don't even know. So that's to be falsified in the first place. But the point is they are trading behind the scenes. So the understanding I have here is that you're promoting, okay, we got some billionaires paying for all this service, so we don't have to pay. And that's the definition of trade free. That's what I'm getting.
No, I will tell you one more thing then. If you really want to get it that deep, the billionaires are forced to pay so we can have this. And the thing that forces them is trade, that even billionaires have to trade. And that's unfair to them. So it doesn't matter who has the resources or the access to the resources. If they're going to have to use trade, it's unfair. And it's not the best way of doing things. Right?
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, to me, the question is what allows us to trade free? And the idea is that there is resources being provided, there are resources being provided to provide that trade-free service. The archive.org and Wikipedia, they ask for donations as well every year. That big banner, hey, we need to keep going, I need your money to keep going. So, yeah.
Which is why
But no
I don't
one
care.
has to donate. They do if they want to. So it's still not a trade. It's not like you have
Yeah,
to.
I
But
mean,
exactly.
if you would
It
have
would
to
be a
donate,
trade
then it would be a
if you
payment. Then it
donate
would be a trade.
access. Then it would be a trade.
Yeah.
Else,
So
it's not a trade.
so your definition of trade is not the original definition. The
what is the original definition?
Oh, let's find out. But in the middle,
Yeah, yeah,
I
sure,
would
no
say
problem.
that it's an exchange of A to B, basically at the
No,
very core.
I don't think so.
The ones who give
You
should not
think
ask anything in return, and
hmm.
the ones who receive should not have to give something in return for the service itself. You say, so Wikipedia, you don't have to give them money to access. I give them money every year. You know, I donate them, and maybe because I donate them, you have access. You and others and so forth. But so what? Why do you care? You know, maybe I'm a millionaire and I donate. It's great that you have access straight free to Wikipedia. They don't force you to donate anything to them or give anything.
Yeah, but it's the individual level. That's what's concerning me here because we want to scale this. So
Right. Okay, Fury, I notice that you have a problem with understanding this fundamental concept. You want to see a big mechanism, right? A big
no,
plan, a larger thing.
no, not
No?
at all. No.
Okay, so tell me what you want to see. Why do you have
I
a
don't
problem with this
Tell
individual
me
thing?
a better alternative. You know, that's what I'm saying here. Is there a better alternative? Because this one, I'm not saying is perfect, but is there a better alternative?
Right. So great. So first of all, I'm trying to understand what is the plan because my understanding is that you need a plan. Having a plan is better than not having a plan. So even if the plan fails or is incomplete, because I have no confidence that you're going to achieve anything if you don't have a plan. So I can't see anything in the future. All right, what's the next step? I don't know. So let's see. Okay, what do I do? But so that's the first thing, having a plan. So I can't even say what's better than your approach because I would say
You don't know what the approach is.
yeah, I'm not seeing any tangible thing. Like, okay, we try to spread this. Let me repeat this. Let me rephrase this. I'm not seeing a approach that works on the numbers because I understand your point. We try to disseminate this trade-free idea approach, and eventually it gets. And that's the point. It gets where?
What
What are the
what
numbers adding up?
It
yeah,
gets
what numbers are you talking
open
about?
source, it gets to Doctors Without Borders, it gets to the open source communities, it gets to a place where it influences billions of people who have access to stuff that they don't have to trade for. Okay, and then that may provide more free time for people. That's the approach here, and I always give exact examples in the society. I'm not just talking about this. If you read the book, I show you like scientific studies between private healthcare and state healthcare, where there are less trades, more trades. I give examples in education. I give examples in many in open source and so forth. So I give examples. I show you. I show you that where there are less trades, you will see better products. You will see better community, better values around those products. So I give an examples. I give examples that have access, have impact on billions of people. So where do you don't see the making this
So
The
realistic?
Well, I
number.
think he's looking more for like a plan. So I mean, I would say that the plan is to tell people about this to get more people to be aware of this problem of trade, and at the same time try to provide whatever trade-free things we can provide. You know, we unfortunately we don't have many resources. You know, I have a trade-free travel blog. That's it. Maybe a book. Tio writes books and makes other stuff. You know, well, whatever we can make trade-free, we will make it. But also in that trade-free thing that we make, we will advertise that it's trade free, you know. We will try to spread the message.
But I
So
think
that's
to have a plan,
that's the
you
plan.
have like this idea of like a specific outcome or like that there's again going to be this massive change when I don't see that that's possible just with how complex the society is. Like we could plan all day, but that we can't guarantee that's going to happen because the society is so complex. We can only work on, small things like as Sasha said, writing and that educates people and it reaches people. And again, a chain reaction can happen that way. Yeah, we can't do much on an individual scale, but on an individual scale, you can inspire maybe 10 other people, and those 10 other people can inspire 20 other people, in the long run. And
Yuri, I want to ask you something. If you didn't know about ROM, forget about ROM. what will be your approach? How do you go about, improving this world, or how do you see things?
So just wanted to comment on the example, and then because otherwise I forget it.
Okay.
You said that providing like the less trade examples, the less trade we see, the better the outcomes in the desirable areas. So that's cool, but the more water in a community, the better the outcomes, right? The less water, the worse the outcomes. But that's not enough. We need to understand, how do we provide, what system do we put in place that provides the more water? That's what I'm talking about. It's okay understanding that trade is a problem and we got to reduce it. It's great. That's the first step. But then how do we provide? What is the knots that we have to tie to make a system that provides the outcome, which is less trade?
Ask Doctors Without Borders if you want to know how they do it. Ask other systems. Don't ask me. I don't know how to do in all of these steps of the society. That's the idea here. You don't tell people what to do. They know how to do it. Probably there are people who know how to make a system that provides foods for people in a trade-free manner. If they will want to do that, they will probably do it, or they had the incentive to do it. So I don't know. How can I answer such questions? There are no way for me to answer such questions.
Well, but you can find on the website how they were able to provide. There's probably a section about and how do we get the funding, because they do get funding.
Then you answered your own
I think
question.
it's not that important. Yeah, I mean, those people provide the trade-free service. That's what's important. I mean, I don't think we need to know every part of the society and how it could work. I think the more important thing is to spread the message, to have more people try to understand this idea and come up with something that's trade-free.
Okay, but what if I am coming up with an idea on how to provide trade-free? You're not listening. So it's not just important to raise awareness, just like you gave the example of the germs. The guy that found the germ did not solve it. It's great to have. I think that's the best analogy you provided for why this is important, because they found that germs caused many problems, but he didn't solve it. But other people were able to work on it, find solutions. But talking about the issue was important. Great, but okay, we found the issue. How do we solve it? You got to go and solve it then. It's not just, okay, you got to find a solution. What it makes you able to kill the germs? It's not just talking.
How did they do that, Yuri? How did they put it into practice and solve the problem with germs?
What? The germs? I don't know. That's a story that I'm not very informed about, but Sasha talked about it.
There are all kinds of people around the world. There was a guy who did an experiment in the showcase where they originate, and then there are other people inspired from other parts of the world who implemented it, maybe in UK first, and then others implemented something else in Spain, and then they invented vaccines, and some invented some products that will, you clean up your hands and you don't spread diseases. There are many solutions because they talked about the problem. And if you were to ask them the same questions, take the guy who discovered the germ theory of disease or made that, and ask him, what is the mechanism? How should we do this? How should we implement it? The guy cannot know because it's so complex. No one has an answer, even a bunch of scientists. The answer, it's always moving. It's a moving target. It depends on the resources. It depends on the people. It depends on how big the problem is and where is that problem. So that's why I don't think I can answer that. I don't think anyone can answer that. But after I get your input on this, please focus on my first question, like what will be your approach? Because I don't want to brush that aside. Because the reason I chose this approach is because I don't know any other.
Okay. Anyway. So the first question is
there is no answer for your questions. That was the point.
Okay, so you can't answer that point because it's too complex. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, it's an anecdote. You're picking a guy that found the problem but didn't find the solution. There are examples of people that found the problem and the solution as well. And people, actually, the opposite is possible. You find a solution to a problem, but you don't know how it works. You don't know exactly what it is. Actually, sometimes you think your problem is something, and your solution works to solve the problem, but it's not actually what you thought. So maybe you thought it was germs, but it was actually viruses, or it was actually cancer. You didn't know about cancers before. So, but your solution actually solved it in a way that you didn't understand. So I think it's an anecdote, and it doesn't represent the entire thing. And you can know the solution as well as the problem. So, but yeah, do you want me to move on? Because
I just
Yeah.
want
Yeah,
to.
please.
This is just one example. I give an example. It's even like open source is reaction to the proprietary software. Transportation is like people, they want to move people from here to here and come up with many ideas to many solutions. So it's not just an anecdote. It's, I think, how the way society works. If you look at how the problems, mostly problems, push society all the time. Like they don't understand gravity. It's a problem. They come up with a answer for that all the time, all the time.
Yeah, but actually, that's the point. It's not moving in the better direction all the time, depending on how you frame it. Because open source actually, it's not a response to proprietary software. It's a response to the free software movement and proprietary software. You know, you
No,
probably
okay,
know.
call it the free and open source software. That's what I mean. No,
Oh,
of
okay,
course
sure,
they
yeah.
relabeled it later on, and there was a conflict inside and so forth. Okay, relabel it the code to be open, and people should use that. It was a reaction to the proprietary software with Richard Stallman and yeah.
Yeah, it's not the same project renamed. It's a different project by different people that didn't agree with the very fundamentals of the free software in terms of other than technical. So there are different reasons as well. So it's not the same.
It's a solution to the proprietary. That's why they call it open source, because they want for code to be open and not be closed. They could call it non-closed, not closed source. But that was the point here. Even those guys who come up with, they don't know where the society will move in the direction of open source. You don't know. You don't know. So I'm saying that I don't think there are answers to those kinds of questions. I don't know. I don't have them.
Yeah, well, I think we can find if we think about them, but in some ways, at some levels, because the idea there is a wish. It really is just a wish. I wish I could be able to change this software. It's closed, so I would like to have the source available. So that's basically, it's not actually tackling the source of the problem, because the source comes from trade that is generated from the need, and my understanding from the need, from scarcity, you know. So in that sense, if we provided that you didn't have to trade, we would be able to just have the software available, the source code in the first place.
Huri, why do you believe that scarcity is the origin of trade?
Oh, okay. So I don't actually believe in it, because I don't believe in anything, which might be a little hard to understand, but
No, I get it.
you get it. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
the understanding I use up to now. You know, it may change in the future, and it might be wrong, but statistically, it's been working up to now. So the idea is scarcity. Why is it a problem?
No,
Because
that's not the question.
yeah, sure, but I need to set the fundamentals to show why it generates trade. So very briefly. So trade scarcity is a problem because if we don't have enough, we'll either fight for the resources, or we'll find, okay, we'll trade for the resources so we don't have to fight. So okay, let's play this game. So you don't have the resource, you get from me, then we trade. You give me something that I want, and cool, because we don't have enough. So if we don't have enough, it generates the need for trade, because if I had the resource that you have, it doesn't matter how much you want to trade with me, I have the resources, so I don't need to trade with you. So the need for trading starts from the very basic idea that I don't have the resource. So it's scarce in my life.
How do you scale that?
What?
How do you
scale it? How do you scale that line of thinking? How do you scale it?
Okay, so to a society and how to solve it.
Because how do you scale it? You say we trade because I don't have enough, others don't have enough. How do you scale that kind of imbalance of not having enough?
And how do you know you don't have enough?
Oh yeah, but well, that's, you can go by the very basic. Do I need it from a physiological point of view, or do I want, which might be superficial, but I just want to get the resource. Let's say I want to get the resource for whatever reason. It's not really the need necessarily, because I may need the resource, but I don't want to get the resource and I die, let's say. But let's say I intend to get a particular resource. Is it available to me? Can I just go from point A to point B and get it? If yes, it's abundant to you. Whenever you want to get, it's abundant to you. And if it's not, it's scarce to you. Whatever mechanism is in place between you and the resource, it's making it's scarce. It's scarce. That's the point. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
So no, the
From your
mechanism makes it seem as though the resource is scarce when it's actually not, right? So is it the resource, is scarcity the problem, or it's the mechanism the problem in this case?
Oh, so that's what I was talking about before. Scarcity is relative to your needs or wants, the amount of resources available, and your capability of actually getting the resource or using it. Getting your hands on. Because think about it: if we have we burn half the world's resources in half a month, half a year, half the world's
Really?
resources.
Really?
Yeah, that's just.
Will I be dead by next, like in 15 days then?
Well, not it's part of the example. Let's just finish.
Yeah.
So let's say we burn half of the world's resources. You might say, well, we're leading towards a scarcity of resources. But if we have the technology and the knowledge to restore double that amount in half the time, we have an abundance. So it's not just the amount of resource available in the environment. It's also our capabilities on how to access and how to create the resources. So it's not the amount.
With the resources.
Do you agree that if most goods and services will be trade free today, with what we know, with our technology and the people that we have now, will be trade free, most of them? The people who have access to an abundance, do you think?
Well, I have to assess exactly what we're talking about, but everything. Maybe some areas might be scarce that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, but exactly. What are the areas that are real scarce and not artificially scarce?
Oh, well, where the technology is not able to extract from as easily.
But in terms of goods and services, I'm talking about.
Scarce. Let me see. Well, again, relative to access as well. It's relative to you and access. So if we don't have access, it's scarce to you. So a lot of those things are scarce.
But how do you access it?
If they will be trade free, for example, where do you find it will be?
Okay, so if everything was trade free, what would be scarce?
Services, yeah. What will be scarce?
Goods and services. Well, again, we have to run the numbers because
I know some examples. I can give you some examples, like organs.
Sure. Organs. Okay.
Like I give you in the last example, it's organ for transplant. That's one that is quite a real scarcity, even those that can be maybe with artificial organs and so forth, but right now it's a scarcity. It's a real scarcity, let's say. Okay. But even those, like I give you examples in the last TROM-Cast, when they take trades away and distribute that scarcity in a more scientific way, when they take the trade away from that system, you will create a much better system than if they will sell that scarcity. So even when they have scarcity, as long as we put trades there, you will fuck things up. That's the idea here. That's why I'm trying to say, take the scarcity away. And the fact that you struggle a lot to find a real scarcity, it proves my idea, my point that we have an abundance today, and we have to make trade-free goods and services to access that abundance.
No, it just proves that human memory sometimes fail, and that I haven't been thinking about examples of scarcity. That's what it proves. You're being misleading there, man. But I would like to comment. Okay. Yeah, you are. I just forgot.
We'll give it to the end of the cast to find some scarce goods or services.
What?
I said I'll give you till the end of the cast to think about some scarce goods and services. Or you can write it later.
You can write to us later.
Yeah, I can truly think about it.
But there's not a lot. That's the thing. And it confuses people too, I think, because when you tell like a person that doesn't have any idea about what we're talking about here, about TROM or TVP or anything, and you tell them, scarcity is the problem. They're like, scarcity of what? Like, we have so much stuff, so much crap in this world. We don't need more crap, Well, so it's confusing to them.
Let me propose two actually. See, it's just memory. I just remembered two. So one of them is quality. Quality is scarce in terms of the products and services in many cases. So, you could say, well, iPhones are high quality. Well, okay.
But why is that again?
No, why is that?
Manufacturers break down so that they can sell more and more and more of them. Again, a result of the need for trade. Same with the quality of almost anything. Yeah.
So it's not high quality. That's what I said. It's
because of the need to trade.
Because. Well, yeah, sure, but we're moving the target. Are we talking about examples of scarcity, or talking about what's generating?
Examples of real scarcity.
an example of
Let's keep
abundance of phones for people's needs. I looked in the book, for example, most people use their phones for very not hard intensive, like very intensive tasks and so forth. So it's in that sense, it has abundance. If you can provide phones, Apple phones for everybody right now, if you wanted to do that, but they don't want to do that because they have to do something with this abundance to keep it more, and make them obsolete in that sense.
Yeah, it's not abundant in terms of access. So there's scarcity of access. It's abundant in terms of numbers. So it's not actually abundant.
But what if I disagree and I say to you, I come from a normal environment and I say to you, you are wrong. It's accessible to me. I can buy an iPhone now from Amazon. It's abundant. I can buy from 5 types of Amazons, 100 types of websites. It's abundant. What you are talking about?
Yeah, it's abundant to you because you have an abundance of money.
No, there's no subjective change of definitions, right? Abundance is abundance, scarcity is scarcity. You can't.
Okay, so let's find what is. What is? Let's find a definition. Do you have a preferred
Of what?
website?
No, I don't actually. I mean, I use a
If
dictionary.
you go to that direction and say, yes, you because you don't have access to an abundant amount of money, then I feel that you close the discussion because there is nowhere I can go with that line of thinking. So what is your solution now if that's your way of thinking? That's what I was asking you like half an hour ago. I was asking you half an hour ago, what is your approach? Forget about TROM, because we explain TROM every TROM-Cast. What will be a better approach? What will be a better approach?
Well, okay. So let me just say that we're moving the target. Now I have to reset my brain. So, okay. Yeah. What it would be a better approach? So the very idea I was talking about before is it's a huge problem. It needs huge solution. So if you don't have the power, you don't have the power. If you don't have the knowledge, you can't change it. If you don't know how to change. So if you have the knowledge to reach people with power to change, I think we can change. Or if you can get the power, get to a position of power, and be able to influence the other players, because we need.
What do you want to do? Because I don't understand. Consider me someone that never heard of such things. And you tell me scarcity is the problem, because this is the TROM-Cast is about scarcity versus trade. You say no, scarcity is the problem, and this is what I would like to approach it to fix this problem.
Okay, so within the context of today.
You say that. So, you say that scarcity is the root cause of most problems, maybe? Do you agree with that?
Sure. No, yeah. Within the frame that we're using here, the operational, operating system.
How will you go about?
Yeah. So first of all, understanding that we got to solve the root cause. So meaning, we can give examples of marketing and things like that, but that's within the context. It's separate from the very solution of the problem. But then we have to bring it to today, and how do we go from here to there? To not having, this many problems, not having trade. How do we get there? So then I would say, what are the mechanisms that work today to change people's minds? Because really we go deeper and we find, okay, what's keeping the system like this? So ignorance, and trade feeds the ignorance because it helps maintain itself. So there's a feedback loop here, but it originated, in my view, with scarcity. But the key is, okay, what are the mechanisms? Can we get a hold of the TV stations? Can we get to big billionaires and ask them to do that? Of course, asking was not going to solve. So can you become a billionaire? What are the solutions? There are mechanisms that work. People are talking about the same things because, look at movies. Why do people keep talking about movies before its release on theaters? Because they put billboards everywhere. They go to Brazil. Here in Brazil, they released a movie back in the US, a big release at the Avengers. I went to a corner of the city, and it was there in a bus stop, a big advertising for that. So these mechanisms work. That's how we're doing it, because people are tuned to react to those mechanisms. So we have to use them. If you have any other idea, we use that idea. But the idea is we don't have the power.
The idea is to educate?
Well, fundamentally it is, right? We all agree, I guess.
But say
the-
everybody understood. Say you
yeah.
spread this idea so well. You made tons of movies and all sorts of stuff, and everybody was talking about this, and they said yes, scarcity is the problem. So now what do you do?
Hmm.
Well, so it's not just understanding scarcity is the problem; it's a whole understanding on how to move, right? But you can also, and here's the thing: you don't have to give up building tools. I think you should be building tools along the way. But okay, so if you understand what that's the key. You have to understand what the problem is, but also propose a solution. Because if you don't propose a solution, it's like the guy that proposed the germs. You wait until someone finds a solution. But if you can sit down and think, okay, how do we provide water? How do we provide having more water is great, right? Accessibility of water is great. So how do we provide a piping system? Do we have what's available? What's to come? So we provide an array of solutions and say, okay, look, these systems are kind of cheap. They can be provided for those poor areas. We can set up a whole array of proposals of systems. But the idea is that we have to.
It's education. You say, see if I understand correctly. It's education about this scarcity creating this kind of bad behaviors that create those problems in the society. So it is this scarcity. People have to be educated. But you also say, as far as I understand, you have to build this infrastructure to make it maybe abundance. Is abundance a solution for scarcity in your view? And we should create an abundant systems. That's what you are trying to say.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's interconnected. So, but you exemplified how if you solve one side of the equation, one node in the chain, it doesn't solve the others. So we got to solve many nodes. But the thing is, yeah, that's basically it. We got to provide an abundance, and the areas where we can provide an abundance, we don't have to trade anymore. And you go layer by layer, or in this network, you solve all of them, and the more we solve, the less we have to trade.
But how do you solve that? Because like if you're saying that companies trade because they need to make money or whatever, people trade because there's not an abundance of the particular item that they're creating, but there's sorry, scarcity, but there's scarcity of something else. So
Like
how do you
currency, for
solve that problem? Sorry?
like a currency in this case. It's a
Yeah,
scarcity
yeah.
of currencies, like money or whatever.
Yeah, so how do
Yeah,
you solve that problem? How do you make anything abundant if the reason that it's, you know, traded, I suppose, is because something else is scarce?
yeah. So
How do you
again,
solve?
it goes back to the educational point, because we got to understand that that is the case. So, and it's not really everyone. That, it's just a critical mass. It really is just a critical mass of people that makes big changes in history. So we,
What could I do? What can I do now, for example? Because when I was at TVP, I tried to help, and I helped a lot. And I built like all kinds of like magazines and so forth. Education. Produce videos, produce this. What could I do now, for example, except education? Is there anything more that I could do?
no, first of all, that's the mistake, I think. I've helped with uh, the Brazilian page on Facebook as well, making images, graphics, and translating videos as well for videos. I think that's a waste of time, first of all. I don't think that's all the educational part, and it's not working, so we got to move to something else. No, I think you got to understand that, first of all, you made a movie, it didn't reach the have the effect, you failed. It's not that education doesn't work. You failed. Go and study better. I failed. If I made a video and it doesn't work, I have to find a different approach, make a different video, make animation, make sounds, whatever. But it's you. You are the failure. Because you can't reach the people. You didn't reach the people. You couldn't communicate with them in a way that they
Education.
understood the point.
Can I do something else besides
What?
education? Can I do something else? That was my question. Can I do something else besides education? If I focus on scarcity as the problem, what can I do?
Oh, sure, you can make tools. Yeah.
Like what? Can you give me some examples?
Sure, like the example I gave the last TROM-Cast, you can make a little program that estimates how much resources do we need in every particular city, part of the city, so that people will have the amount of resource constantly.
So it's
That's
still
useful.
education, right?
Well, it's functional first because it provides the service, but it's not to be implemented necessarily because we're not, in control of those systems.
Then
But
wouldn't that be a failure?
what?
If you make something that cannot be implemented, wouldn't that be a failure again?
Well, but you're not implementing it. You're not making it to implement. That's the mistake. You're implementing it. It's a strategy. I'm preparing myself for what's to come. It's not for now. It's for later. So you got to work on the later, and the later
But
is.
how does that lead to abundance?
How does that lead to abundance? Well,
Or to
because
solving the problem of scarcity?
again, it's a huge problem. So you're not looking for a simple solution. It's not really. It's multidimensional. There's so many layers that we have to solve. One of them is tools. The other one, the key one, is education, because people will not adopt this idea or your software if they're not educated to change the system anyways.
And I think this is where I split it from this kind of approach, because I agree with you. I agree that I don't disagree that we scarcity is a big problem, then we need to educate people and we need to create abundant systems. I don't disagree with that, but I think that, like you explained now, I don't see. I searced for what can I do, and I didn't see any way. Like except making some videos, making some books here and there, I cannot do anything. But with this trade free thing, I can do like software. We can do like provide trade free maybe food here and there as much as we can. It leaves me with more. You see, I'm not saying your idea here is wrong and mine is good. I'm saying this idea with trade, it's better. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it provides us with better tools. So don't think that I disagree with you there. But I say that this provides more because I can give you many examples of how you can create trade-free goods and services, and they impact the lives of billions of people, and you also educate them. If Wikipedia will label themselves as trade-free, for example, maybe they will educate a few thousands or million people who would be interested in this idea. Who knows? But I feel like it's a path. It's not the perfect path at all. It's a path. Where the other way, I just don't see. I cannot see. For the past, don't. If you don't know me, I wrote about scarcity and abundance a lot. I gave so many examples. I wrote a book, AA World, Automated Autonomous World, how we can automate everything to make it abundant. Talking about the zero marginal cost and so forth. I agree with you. For fuck's sakes, I'm explaining these things. I just don't see a path forward, and that frustrates me. And here I see a path forward, and I don't think it's a bad way forward, even if you don't disagree with us. The worst that we can create is to make people aware that this trade environment creates problems, and we create some trade for goods and services. That's the worst that we can create. And the best is like to have a bigger impact. I think so.
Yeah, but then you're wishing. You're just wishing. You're hoping that it magically happens because you're not providing the numbers. That's the key for me, because it's got to work on the numbers.
I'm
I feel like
confused.
it's the opposite. I feel like it's kind of what you're doing, because you're saying, okay, we need an abundance, and how do we do that? Okay, we can just educate people. I don't know, it's complicated. We need all sorts of mechanisms. For us, I mean, we're not necessarily wishing. I mean, most of us are huge pessimists. We don't think that we're going to see a bright future, but at the same time, we're still just trying to understand this. We're trying to understand how the world works, and we're trying to provide some whatever resources we have. We make trade tools with that. So it's not just wishing; it's doing something. And this trade-free thing allows us something to do, even if it's not much.
Yeah, but that's comfort. You're providing comfort for yourself. I'm doing something, but comfort is not really.
What are you supposed to do? You're not? I don't think you're answering that question either. You keep asking us, but you're not really answering either. So I'm confused. You keep saying like numbers and stuff. So then, what are your numbers? I don't.
So sure. So let me give you the numbers then. So the way you solve scarcity is providing abundance. How do you provide abundance? You automate as much as possible, because humans, if we provide things free,
cutting out.
What?
No, for me it's fine. I think you're cutting out.
Okay, so
I think we're gonna lose him.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, for me.
You're okay. You're okay.
Can you repeat that, please?
Okay, so I think you're.
I think you're cutting.
Yeah. So Yeah. So let me start again. So uh, scarcity. So that's a problem. How do you solve it? Provide abundance. How do you do it? You automate as much as possible. That's the solution to scarcity. Because if you don't automate, you're asking people, you're wishing people will just do things for free, and so that's not realistic. So you got to automate to provide it. So we do minimal work, and we get an abundance of resources. So how do we do that? Okay, who is in charge? Maybe it's about convincing them or taking over. It's about being able to provide the structures, the factories. Can you do that? No. What do you need? Maybe you need a bunch of people. Do you have the resources? No. Maybe you need to get money, get funding. How do you do it? That's the sad reality that we have. People have power, you don't. They can do things, you can't. But that doesn't mean that there is no way to do it. It's just not in your hands. They could do it. They're not very much interested. Maybe try convincing them. That's the mechanism. Some people are empowered. They have the ability to do it. They're not interested. They don't even know what you're talking about. So that's the thing. The people in power that can make these changes have to make these changes. So if the idea is we convince everyone, hey, let's just do it, no money anymore, and we start working, everyone starts working on building these factories to automate extraction, production, distribution systems that could solve. Maybe asking all the billionaires, hey, could you do this? Maybe they do that. So there are ways to get there,
But I'm confused.
So it's
Where are the numbers?
Oh, the numbers. Okay, so we have a bunch of what?
Yeah, the numbers. Like you said, it's about numbers, but you talk about the same kind of theories that we could talk about. Yes, in the book that you didn't read, it's you talk about
that I don't have to read, just to make clear. Yeah,
you don't have to read. Okay, you don't have to read, but it's like me doing this 90% of the time that you are talking. So, it's not a good idea. Listen to the arguments first. But anyways, I will explain to you. We also talk about automation. We say that we have to rely less and less on people. We talk about the same kind of things in this regard. Less and less on people, make it more decentralized, more digitized, more open source, or openly operated and so forth, like transparency and so forth. We talk about this kind of layers. We give six layers that if you do all of these 6 layers, it's very likely to create an abundant system that is also trade-free. So you talk about the same kind of things that we explained, but you say something about numbers, but what are you talking about numbers? What kind of numbers do you really talk about?
Oh, sure. So, okay. So let's give an example. Then I will tackle exactly that particular example. So, in companies that I have actually worked on, they measure impact. And some people might say, you can't measure impact. How do you know how many people show up in an event? How do you know how many views a particular video will reach? So they actually know how to do that. They find cases, events, and they replicate the model. When they run some numbers and calculation. Okay, if they have this amount of followers, and this will make sense. They find the amount of followers, how many people showed up, what is the thing all about, the brand all about, is that similar to us? We maybe have half the amount, and they find out roughly what the impact could be of a particular event or a particular video that they release, and they can sell that to companies. So that's what I'm talking about when I say numbers. So when you say we start trading, some people are paying for the service for archive.org. So by ignoring that and say, no, for me, it's trade free, sure. But there's a mechanism that allows that system to exist, that service. So when it starts, stop trading, people stop trading. You gave an example, first of all, I gave an example that you leave trade free. And if you consider donations as trade-free, sure, but I don't consider that. There's an exchange at least of an expectation. But that's just an example. We can talk about it. But
you don't understand the idea then. And this is the confusion. You see, because maybe if you read the book, maybe it will be a much better explanation. Well,
you keep bringing the book. You keep bringing the book. If you understand the point, you can summarize it. I don't need to read the book to validate the point.
That's what I'm trying to do here, Yuri. If you are, and by the way, if you're interested in a project, because you come here and say, I disagree with your point, then read our point, because else it's like I'm going to TDP and I don't read any materials and I'm like, I disagree with your ideas. But I'm resuming for you here. I'm summarizing for you here. Again, I say that a trade-free service or good is between it and the users. Don't go back all the time, because if you go back all the time and say, yeah, but you rely on donation, yes, but this, but that, you will go back in an infinite way, and you will never be satisfied, because you will never find such a system where no one is like trading in the society. So don't go back to that. I still don't understand how is your approach. You migrate to another discussion here.
Sure. No, but that's the whole point. You are drawing a line and say, don't look there. Put a blindfold, because what I'm saying is the mechanism that allows you to be able to not trade is important, because it's what's running the services. Without that mechanism, there is no service. You're not. The reason why you don't have to trade for archive.org is because some people decided by their generosity that they will pay for that. So, but they are trading.
Yes, most people that decided to donate did not contact you and say, hey, now you have to give me your data, or hey, give me your email address and I'm going to send you all of these links every week or whatever. It is trade free. If I give $20 to a homeless person on the street, I don't follow them down the street and say, hey, where are you going? What are you going to buy with that $20? Give me your, social security number. I don't do any of that. I just give it to them and I walk away.
It's a difference between paying for something to get something else in return and donations or gifts. It's a big difference here. That's why we use even different words. A gift is a gift. You don't expect anything in return. That's the idea here. So don't confuse things. Don't say that people donate money to me because I give something back to them. I give back to them even if they don't donate. So it's not a transaction here. See, it's not a trade.
Yeah.
So let me just ask that question, because very, very specific, very important to the whole point. In your Patreon, it says TROM is creating a saner world. So there's at least a promise of an expectation. But what I really want to ask is, if no one donates, you said you rely on donations, right? So to pay your bills. If no one donates, can you do what you do?
People started to donate from 2014 on. I'm doing such things from 2007.
Sure, but that's best. Can you do it if people stop donating?
No, the question is, will you do it? Will you do it? I will do it if I had the resources to do it. I will do it. It's trade free.
If you have the resources, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the point. There's an expectation. You do it.
I never have an abundance of resources, anyways. So I'm.
But the thing is, I was gonna say Theo just does this out of his own curiosity, out of what interests him, is trying to figure out the problems of this world and trying to figure out a way to solve them. And I mean, he can spend all day, every day working on this project. Because some people help him out, and so he can pay for rent and pay for some food. That's true. If they didn't do that, maybe he would live with his parents, or maybe he would live in a cave somewhere, and he would probably still do it, and he would probably have to work maybe a little bit to support himself. Okay, and I think it's not that important. The important thing is that he provides the trade-free tools, and he puts this idea out there.
The intentions are not important. What if I do this because I believe in the greater power of God? I don't. So what? I do. It's a trade-free system that I create. No one cares. I don't care. The people who write Wikipedia articles that are trade-free to me, I don't care what they do. I don't care why they write them. I care that it's a trade-free system. I don't understand what you don't understand here.
So let me clarify. That's exactly what I mean by the numbers are not adding up. That's what I mean by the numbers. On the one-on-one basis, sure. But on a big scale, that's what we want to achieve, right? And on a big scale, that doesn't work, because someone is paying for you. If no one is paying, no services to be provided. We have to rely on people's willingness to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, because the force of trade is so strong in the society at this moment. But little by little, we can keep pecking at that. What else are we supposed to do? Just sit on our hands and, talk about blueprints and a future city? I mean, yeah, we can do that. That is one thing to do, but we can also write blogs, create books that are factually sourced, scientifically based. I mean, educate people, inspire people, make videos. I mean, that right there creates
I do the same like you do, and like the same like TVP does, like education. Only I go a step ahead, and I also create some services and goods that people can use.
Which is great.
That's what I'm doing. So it's not like you see, I'm doing the educational part. I'm doing a lot of the educational part, but I also create some tools, trade-free tools that are trade-free for people. Doesn't matter how I create them. Why don't go back to that? That's why do I don't understand why do you understand that it doesn't matter? Why it matters?
Can I,
It
can I
does
also say
matter
something about the
because
grant? But on the bigger scale, look, if you were to like scale this up, right, and you were saying, okay, but if more people do this, then there'll be other people backing them up, that they'll be dependent on donations or whatever. But the thing is, if those people that are providing trade-free goods and services, that means they're providing something, that they're giving some sort of charity basically to the rest of the people. So say somebody, in the town that Tio lived in also was able to provide trade-free food. Okay, great. So then you would be less dependent on trades as well. And if this idea could grow, maybe it won't, maybe it can't, but if it could, then okay, then those people providing trade-free goods and services as well as anybody else can have more access to trade-free stuff. So they wouldn't need that backup of people trading for them.
well, but then you're trading by proxy because see, if I do things because I want to get things because we need to trade free, so I'll do the work, do my thing, the thing I like to do, I do because if I don't do it, it look bad. Some people are doing it. I have to do because I need to provide things for free for other people. So then they get the thing for free. And also I get things for free. So we rely on this willingness to just do things for free, which in turn is trade by proxy.
No, because you don't go get a glass of water because you expect some outcome or you expect something to happen or somebody to clap their hands when you do it. You're doing it because you need it.
Yeah, but that's not corresponding to the example.
Everything's going to be a trade, and I think that's what Tio's saying. Like if you just keep going back and back and back, you're going to keep finding these.
Yeah, this micro trades that we address in the book again. For fuck's sake, we addressed all of such things in the book, in detail and with sources and hundreds of documentaries. But anyways, I'll explain again. This is like going to pee and then feeling good, and you say that it's a trade because you go to pee and you feel good. That's ridiculous. It's a trade between two parties. Like we could talk about the macro trades here.
Sure,
if you put a microscope on any idea, Huri, any idea, open source, any idea, you'll find these bizarre things. Don't go there because you'll never be satisfied.
Sorry, but that's not what I'm talking about. You're giving that's the point. You're giving an example of one person, one individual operation. Trade involves more than one person. That's the point. We're talking about that operational level. Again, you're talking about biological systems. That's not the point. We're framing the problem within the operating system of our society, interacting with other humans. How do you do that in terms of resources and social interactions? That framework allows us to see, okay, how is the activities happening? What are the interactions and how they happen? And if we don't trade, okay, give me money or give me other resource. If I do this service for you, nothing happens because, okay, if I do that, okay, I will do my thing because I like to do that thing. That's what
Yeah, Tio initially did this because as Sasha said, he had a curiosity. He wanted to do this. And look at how many people it inspired. All of us are here because of that. I mean, he didn't do it because somebody made him do it or because he was going to get paid for it or because he had this idea like 5 years down the road, I might meet these people. He did it because something inspired him to do it. And, that inspired us,
But that's motivation.
Are you trying to say, I'm sorry, I skipped out in between. Are you trying to say that even the stuff that we do trade free now is not completely trade free because somebody else is paying, because other trades are involved to make in the production of trade free goods and services?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because see, you're talking about motivation there. I don't know your name, sorry. Lady.
Srinivas. Oh no, that's Jen.
Jen. Sorry. I think you're talking about motivation here. What led him to start it, but what allowed him to start. So we're talking about the can versus the will here in terms of the English language. The can, the ability, the physical ability to do it, was coming from maybe his parents supporting him, maybe donations later supports him, but the ability to do it comes from the availability of the resources, not just the motivation, because I want to do this and I also want to do this. I can't because I need to work. I didn't figure it out in terms of how can I just work for this direction, get rid of trade uh, because I have to work. So my path is different, but you understand the point. You can do it because of the resources.
The more I have, the more things I can do. Of course, I made Trom documentary in a bunk bed in a room that was smaller than the fucking prison cell, and I had to put my monitor into the ceiling. I've been through a lot of shit, things that maybe other people can do it, but they were not that motivated. But it's so not important. For me, it's important what I create here. Sugar-free is sugar-free. Are the people who make the sugar-free product sugar-free as well? Do they eat sugar-free products as well? What about those who feed dogs? Are they sugar-free? You don't go there because I think it's ridiculous. Focus on a trade-free goods and service here, and I think that's I don't know how to explain it better than that. I explained so many times, but don't go back. You go back all the time. I don't care how I create a good trade goods and service. Why do you care if my parents pay me, or why do you care? Maybe I don't eat. Maybe I just don't eat. I'm an alien. Doesn't matter. I create trade stuff for you, and that's what you should care about. You can go on Trom site now and you can watch curated news, curated videos. You can have Trom Jaro. You can watch documentaries that I curate and I make them available for you in trade-free way. Decentralized. You can do all that.
But you know why it matters? Just very quickly, you know why it matters? How? Because if you don't eat, if you're an alien, I want to know, how do you survive, man? You don't trade. Great. How do you do it? I'm an alien. Let's try to get some of your DNA and spread to everyone so we don't have to get food. So it's important how you do it.
I think that's what led me to the motivation, because that's what I'm interpreting when you say how you do it. But I think that's beyond the point. In this society, it's impossible for all of us to be 100% trade free. But that shouldn't stop us from trying to create things that are trade free and educating people and inspiring other people that have the ability. Yes, not 100% of people. I agree with you. 100% of people in this society they don't have the resources, they don't have the time, they don't have even sometimes the mental capacity to fathom these things. Yes, but perhaps maybe by creating TROM-Jaro, Tio can inspire somebody else that has the ability to create something else, and then that person can inspire another person. So that is where I'm talking about motivation.
And I think if you take from this world, just 1 second, if you take from this world all of the trade-free goods and services that people do, all of the volunteers, all of the open source, all of the Wikipedia, throw it away. I think it's a much worse world than it is today. So I'm saying that it has an impact. It has a big, big impact, and it will continue to have a big impact. And if it doesn't have a big impact to change the entire society, I don't know any other way. That's the point. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. And that's it.
I think your mic is off.
We can't hear
I think
you.
Yuri is talking, but his mic is off.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think the base is the same for us. I mean, but the how. So I'm really concerned with the scale because because I see the point, and I totally agree with you. Do trade free on the one-on-one basis. It's great, but when I look further and I see, okay, how can we scale that? Maybe as it evolves, some areas will become trade free, the others will come back at trading because we're not tackling what's generating that. So that's my concern.
We never know.
If we will move from horses to cars, you will be someone who will wonder okay, but I don't understand how we will make roads. I don't understand how we make people educate how to drive, where we should put the steering wheel and so forth. You cannot picture all of these mechanisms. That it's too complex. Well, don't go there and don't diminish the idea. It's not one-on-one. Wikipedia is maybe 100 people to a billion. Okay, so don't diminish that.
Sure. But that's not, no, you're mischaracterizing my views. I'm not the guy. In the contrary, I am the guy that will say, hey, sure, it's a better technology. I mean, when I was a kid, I heard of the first successful electric car, like the EV1. Someone told me, because I was into technologies, and I was like, it was so obvious to me, so obvious. And people, oh no, but there's no infrastructure, just charging. I was like, it doesn't matter. We build it. It's just a better system, So I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that actually say, no, sure, let's analyze this, dissect this idea, and what do we need to make the thing work? And roads is something that you just think about. It's part of the idea. I think we can think about roads. We can think about all that thing, and I'm not scared of the scale. I see the opposite. I see you guys saying, "Well, let's not plan anything. Let's see what happens." But the thing is, we can do that. But if the numbers, again, if we can't scale this to the whole society because it's not within the mechanism, someone has to pay, and we can't get there.
Do you know if you can
fail.
scale it? Do you know
No,
if?
but
I don't know either. So what should we do?
Try to assess that.
So
I think
what
just
should we do? I don't know.
I think just because
I'm
people
just doing something that impacts people now, and I'm educating them. That's all I'm doing. Do I know if I will change society? I don't know. Sasha, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And I mean, I think just because people pay for, I don't know, pay donations, for example, for trade-free goods and services for them to be for people to be able to create such things, I don't think that means that they can't be scaled. Why would it?
But because
Because actually, the more trade-free goods and services there are, I think the more it can be scaled. Because then the less dependent the people creating these things would be on trades in the first place. So the less donations they would need, or the less support from those that are engaged in trades. So in a way, I think the more it's scaled, the easier it would be to scale it even more.
The Internet Archive has its servers in a church because the building was there. They let them put the servers there, and the energy comes from the sun. Then they have less trades there, so the system is even more efficient. Less people, less trades for them. You see, it goes into that direction.
But no, there's an economics of solar systems. You're paying over long periods of time. You're still paying for it. It's just much less over 10, 20 years. So you're
that's only because solar panels are stuck behind the trade. I mean, if solar panels were trade free, then you would be saying this.
Maybe somebody will figure out how to make trade-free solar panels.
Or just donate to Wikipedia or to whoever. Don't think all of this kind of big scale, because I feel like you will never reach any point that you'll be satisfied, so you will not do anything. You will say, okay, I think it's not worth it because it's not scaling. Well, I don't know if it's going to scale or not, but I'm doing something, I want for people to also do something and get involved into this, and at least I'm doing something. I also do the educational aspect. So I don't see what's the problem here, or why do you may think that it's not a good idea to focus on this. And please, can we focus for 5 minutes, 10 minutes? What is the alternative? Please, someone tell me what is the alternative, because I don't know what is it.
Okay, so to your point, so you're not proposing that we solve the problem. You're just proposing let's do something to hopefully make it a little better. Is that a fair assessment?
No, I'm saying this is the problem, and to solve this, take it away, but not take it away in a bulk. Take it away in all kinds of domains. Take trade away, and you will resolve it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But okay, so then we go back to the whole point of if we have a trade-free society, but there's this scarcity of a particular resource, let's say food, shortage of food, not enough for everyone. What do you think is going to happen? Because you said you don't know, and you don't have to know. It doesn't matter how you do it, but
no. I will give you the example. It's organ transplant. It's the best example. If you take trade away from this example, you will come up with a system that is humane, I would say, or it's more correct. It's better than a trade-based system. I give you the example. It's a real example. It's a big example. People are dying because they don't have that. But don't deviate. Tell me what is the alternative here, because I don't know what is the alternative.
Sure. Yeah. Again, I come back. I'll talk about it. But I just want to say that again, there is no alternative to a no plan. If there is no plan, if it's just okay, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know what's going to happen. I just want to do something. That's what you said. And, how people do something about it and feel good about it. I am interested in what solves the problem. I don't care about feeling good along the process. Maybe I just sustain pain more than other people, but I don't like just talking about these things. I hate having to talk about this. It's not like a verbal, a hobby for me. But we have to talk. We have to tackle. We have to go to the bigger scales. We have to tackle the big issues. It's a huge problem. So I don't have the power to do it. My strategy, personally, is I'm studying. Working towards the path of becoming a director, and try to make movies and improve myself. See if I can make movies that share some of these perspectives, because it's really powerful and we have evidence of that, like the Terminator effect in psychology. We heard of the Terminator effect from the movie, The Terminator. When you talk about automation, people go like, oh, but the machines take over, right? So it does have a huge impact in society. So that's one way. I may fail dramatically. I may never reach the position, but to me, it's really playing with these big scale things, not
Okay, but that's the same thing that we're doing,
Yeah.
making all sorts of movies, books, all this stuff. Okay, now go on.
Aaron,
What
can I
else?
bring you to a discussion? Aaron, what do you do, Aaron?
Yeah, I also thought about it. I want to add this, that I'm actually working right now on videos. So I want to make multiple videos, unfortunately in German, but that's how I feel more comfortable. And I want to make videos about this trade-free ideas. So I want to explain people why trade is the problem, but also to show what they can do, for example. So you can do trade-free activities. You can do less trade-based things. Let's say you go less into the cinema, but instead you help other people when you volunteer. So I want to make this trade-free idea cool, kind of. And
That's the whole
yeah, let's
plan.
see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just want to spread
Also
the
help
idea.
translating, for example, he helps translating, for example, from Java into German. And this is
Yeah.
he has a direct impact on people who install from Java, and then they will not have to pay for a Windows or a Mac operating system, for example. And he can expand that. That's what I'm saying. There are more answers here. He can expand. Actually, he can scale in a sense. If I were to use your words, he can scale, and he can say, look how we can live with less trades because you can do this sort of things. Look how we can do trade-free goods, like services. How can we provide to others software? How can you translate stuff, do educational stuff? So he does education in German, and he does actually also like services, a few services here and there for people who can take advantage. That's why I'm saying I feel like it's a better approach. And what about you, Cody, for example? Because you also had some ideas with the trade-free internet or other things like that.
Oh, just the trade-free Wi-Fi idea, and just this whole decentralization, making educational materials or things that I agree with, that I think would improve the world and make it a better place. That you want to call it a trade or whatever. I'm just happy to know that I'm participating in providing that to somebody. That's it for me. So long as I have the computer and the connection, I'm happy to do that.
The
The
Wi-Fi
time is free.
idea is a very interesting idea. What idea did you have with Wi-Fi?
Oh, the trade free Wi-Fi is that you would have basically this network of, or guest networks, that anybody could incorporate on like their phone hotspot or whatever. But that the idea is that the network's open, and that there's like, if you go to an airport or any kind of free Wi-Fi you get now today, you're usually stuck on a landing page, and you have to agree to whatever before you're able, and that's the trade is
Trade.
right there. Whereas you click on my trade free Wi-Fi, you're connected. There's no password. There's
Data
nothing.
collection.
No data collection. I don't want your stuff. It's just
Except
internet free.
maybe what service provider collects, but that's not you trading
Exactly.
anything,
So
is it?
it's like, from like, basically it's like I have the ability that I could collect, the information that's going through there, but that I have chosen not
I'm
to.
not
I
doing
don't
it.
want that. So that makes it trade free for me. I can't
And
I
Do you
can't
see?
block where,
label
yeah.
them, because we also label such things. Yes, you might think, okay, that's shit. You do nothing, guys. You just do some videos and shit like that. The fact is that we are most of us are broke, I live with 550 euros a
Because we
month
don't
and I
have
have to pay
jobs.
for don't have jobs. I mean, give us a few million and you'll see that we will do like a shit ton of stuff. I will write a book like what I will do with 5 billion, and I will ask you guys, all of us, to contribute what with your ideas and so forth. So that's what I'm saying. We label it trade free. We do trade free goods and services. We educate people, and it's like a cycle. They get stuff for trade for free in trade free way. We also educate them, and I feel like this is a great approach. And I hope that Yuri maybe will see will see the benefits in that. I'm not invalidating his approach, and I'm not invalidating the scarcity and abundance things. I think we should move toward an abundant society. If we could implement an abundant society right now, how it would be perfect. Like, but I cannot see, even when we say moving towards, I don't see any path. I only see this path that we came up with. I don't see any other path. And that's what I'm happy that we have something to hold onto.
Because in this society, when you make something abundant, it can still be polluted by trades. It can still be sold, and that's the problem that I
because
see.
because trade will manufacture the scarcity of access to the abundant thing just to keep itself going.
Yeah, but you can also have trade free that's scarce. So that's not addressing the root cause.
Yeah, but that's actually that's a good point. But that's actually because we have abundant goods and services, is more unlikely if you do it, even if you do it at a bigger scale. The bigger scale that you do it, the more unlikely. Like if you want to provide trade-free food, and it's a big organization that want to provide that, they will have access probably to a lot more food to distribute for as trade-free for people. It's very likely, like, if you make something trade free, it's very likely to push it towards being abundant. And this is what I will explain in the book, with all kinds of systems, that all kinds of organizations and projects. It tends to become more and more like that, because, like I explained, a healthcare system that is more trade free is not incentivized to keep stuff for themselves, it's more incentivized to automate, to make it more decentralized, to make it more efficient. Or someone who produces clothes is not incentivized to throw them away, so it's less incentivized to create a scarcity. It's more incentivized to go towards abundant systems. But of course, we cannot. That's why, yes, it's so true that you can create trade-free goods and services that are not abundant. But so what? I think it's much better to distribute those resources in a trade-free manner than to trade them. It's a much better approach. Doesn't matter what
But
the system.
yeah, but that's the key. You think it's better. I think it's better. Some people might say, I don't care, man. Everyone gets equal amounts. I want to get more. So you have to count with the possibility that people want what they want, the amount that they want. They don't want.
Oh no, I think that is that's a really shitty thing about economics, right? The value of anything is what someone's willing to pay for it. That's a shitty, unscientific way to go about things, and we've done it for too long. And maybe that's how trade came up, but that's not the right way. So you can't say that that's something we can never change about people. Somebody will always want more. It's probably true.
No, no,
And
it's not the more.
if
It's
you
the
want, if you don't want opinions, and you want real studies and so forth, just if you read the book, I will show you exactly, like, where there are less trades, you see less problems. That's what I'm saying. I mean, here it will be opinions because I cannot source them, and it's much difficult for me to explain like that. But yeah, I give examples. Yeah, less trades, less problems. It's predictable. It's predictable in education. It's predictable in all kinds of technologies, and all kinds of systems of distribution goods and services and so forth. All kinds of platforms, for social media to whatever platforms you want to. And so I give examples, many, 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 many examples with sources to, like, credible, I would say, credible organizations and so forth. But I'm doing it. I'm not just saying, okay, you think that a trade free goods and services is better. That's why it took so long to write these things, to source them, and that's all I can say for now. It's like, if you want to know those, you can read the book, or just, I don't know. I can give you more examples in other TROM-Cast if you want.
it's not really about examples. To me, what you're saying is exemplifying the problem. So if we have less trade, so it's good to have less trade, and potentially zero trade is better than having more than zero trade. Yeah, so great. That's the identifying part of the problem. But how? And you said that you don't know how they did it. How does what is the name? The Doctors Without Borders. How do they do that? I don't know. That's exactly what's interesting, because that's the implementation. That's the solution. How then we provide trade free? Let's look for them for those particular
So
cases.
look for that. No, look for that and learn from there, and you try to do the same, right?
Sure, but I know, I'm telling you, they have backers, they have funds that someone is paying for.
Exactly. So you do it the same,
So
and you help 10 million people like they do, and that would be a great thing in this world. I
Yeah.
would say.
All right.
That's the idea actually here. That we don't aim. We don't. I don't imagine this trade-free society. I think that we can impact people from a few hundred to maybe a few million, or 1 or 2 billion, like Wikipedia, in all kinds of ways. And if you keep in mind this trade thing, and you make people aware that where is trades, there will be problems, because that's quite provable. And my book is an argument, and I cannot say more than that in TROM-Cast. Then, if we keep that in mind, maybe other people will try to get the idea and try to fix this problem. That's what I'm saying, and it doesn't invalidate the scarcity thing. We can even say let's create an abundance goods or services that are trade free, and if you are satisfied with that, and
No, sure, but I think you're moving the target constantly. You said, "Oh, that's how you got to focus on the problem and talk about the problem, and then we tackle the problem." But now it's not the problem. It's not. It's talking about. It's not about solving the problem. It's not about getting to a trade-free society. It's just about getting less trade-free.
I
I
don't
think
think
where
That's better, isn't it?
I don't think, just to
Isn't
explain. I don't say that I'm saying that I don't want to reach this trade-free society. I don't want to dream about that. Let's hope that we reach a society where it relies less and less on trades. That's what I'm saying. Less and less on trades, and that will mean better products and services and more time for people. Don't think that I'm imagining this trade-free society.
I mean, society is always evolving. You can't just
Yeah.
imagine like, oh, this is what it's gonna be.
Yeah, well, no, trade is pretty straightforward. You're not exchanging anything to get what you need. There's no moving definition.
it's such a complex thing. You can't just get rid of it like with one fell swoop. It has to be a bunch of different things. It's just
you
such a
need an you need many, many,
Yeah,
many alternatives to it in every single field, but all with the same fundamental idea. It is not trade.
yeah, but yeah, I don't understand that point. This point keeps coming up, but I never said that we do one thing.
But when
It's a
you
process.
say fix the problem or come up with a plan, you are implying that there is one solution to just get rid of it completely, when in reality that's not the case.
No, I'm not
We
implying that.
identify trade as the source of most problems, and problems being plural, so therefore start by removing trade from a lot of those problems. I mean,
Yeah, so but then how do you remove trade? And if it comes from scarcity, and I mean, do we agree on that? Do we understand that trade comes from scarcity? Because I
I
mean,
don't.
yeah. So, but I'm guessing that Sasha and Tio do, because we've been talking about it, and there was an agreement. Yeah, trade, comes from scarcity. Sure,
Maybe
but
In
it originated
in the
or
way that
something.
you were saying, like that there's not an abundance of absolutely everything. I understand what you were saying. Yeah, I mean the trade comes because there's still something scarce, right? And you were talking about money is a huge example, but like again, it doesn't matter if that's what's behind trade, because that's not like we cannot tackle that, because that's something that needs to happen in one go, basically, to create an absolute abundance of absolute everything. I mean, if
no,
otherwise, if we're just talking about the scarcity of any one particular item, I don't necessarily think it has. I mean, yeah, of course it can lead to trade, but I don't think that's the only force that leads to trade.
what else then? Because that's not, and I keep saying this. That's not what I say when I say, the scarcity. You got to provide abundance of every single
are
thing.
you asking, like, as of right now in the society that we exist in? I think that we are so conditioned to believe that we have to trade, because that's how it's been done for so long that people can't even imagine. So therefore, it is important to create trade-free services like education and books to give examples, especially that are backed by science or proven. I know you say you don't want to read this book, but you're asking these questions, and it is a very complex situation that needs to be explained in depth, and you can't just like we're all answering your questions as best as we can. I feel like you're not the one that's answering, or maybe you're misinterpreting. I don't know. I feel like we're going around circles at this point.
Me too. I think we're running in circles from the very beginning, because there is a justification of the answer, never an answer. Because you say that you provide, but that's exactly the opposite. It's a huge problem, but you can't plan. That goes against a huge problem.
Okay, so
big changes.
I could say I'm going to go get a giant bulldozer and bulldoze all this entire society and then just start and rebuild the whole thing. But what kind of plan is? I mean, what do you mean?
Yeah, but that's your plan. That's your plan. I never said that. You keep putting words in my mouth.
Hypothetically, I don't understand what do you mean by a plan, because
but
a plan implies that there is one big giant solution.
Yeah.
No, but a plan. It may be a collection of things. A plan.
What do you want from us? Like, what would you? What will satisfy you? Like, what answer will satisfy you? What answer from us will satisfy you?
Well, first of all, if you don't move the target, if you don't move the target, that'll be great, because we started talking about the what is the root cause, what generates all the other problems. But then, in the middle of the thing, without answering that, or maybe answering, okay, I agree, but there is a but. Oh, but I want to focus. I stop the trade because. But then you're defeating the very idea that to solve the problems, we got to solve the root cause, because you find out that, okay, what I'm focusing on is not the root cause. I agree with you. But instead of saying, okay, we got to fix that, I stop the trade, you're moving the target. So we never solve the problem.
What do you disagree with? What do you disagree with?
I don't agree or disagree, because agreeing doesn't matter or disagreeing. It doesn't change the factors. What I'm talking about here, and oh man, I forget his name. Srinivas?
Yeah, Srinivas.
Okay, so you talk about how, again, that's moving the target as well. Last TROM-Cast, how you can't plan. Oh, it's too much. How do you define the needs and people? And you can't do that. How do you measure that? And I give an example, and then you say, oh, I'm not saying that it's not possible to measure. Now you're moving the target. You said it was not possible. Now it's not about being possible or not. So we never solved the problem. I demonstrated that it is possible to measure. So it is possible to plan.
I asked you what you disagree with Trom, or what would you want from us, but you move the target to many things. So can you focus on like what part of this that you think we are doing wrong? The focusing on the problem or the focusing on the solution? What part
so just to address the first question, you're not the question, but the point. I didn't move the target. I explained that you kept moving the target. It's not really agreeing or not. It's not really disagreeing or not. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. What do I disagree? It's that the point is, every point that we talk about, we start talking about it, then it moves, and then we never solve the first thing. So, but what I don't see as valid from your point is, first of all, the root cause. But then you said in your article, I read a little bit of your article that you talked about the last TROM-Cast, and you say, yeah, sure, it's scarcity that leads to trade, and then you talk about some other things. But if you identified what the root cause is, by definition, that's what we need to treat. You don't identify cancer, start treating the symptoms. You gotta treat the cancer. And what leads to the cancer is that there's a number of causes, and if the underlying cause was chronic inflammation, you got to stop the chronic inflammation. How do you do that? So if you don't address, okay, sure, but let's remove the cancer, and it comes back. So sure.
It's funny because I give the example of cancer. I give the example of aging. Actually, I compare aging. Aging is the source of most health problems that kill people, statistically. And now they're focusing on removing the factors of aging. And I made an analogy with trade. Wherever you remove trade, you will make a healthy system, and so forth. So we made that analysis, and if you read just half of my article, maybe you have to read the entire thing to see how I arrived at this problem. However, let's suppose I agree with you. Scarcity is the root cause of most problems. I will change the name of that fucking book, you know. Scarcity is the root cause of most problems. What now?
Sure, but well, I could give you. I will say what. Well, I'm not sure if I will say because we talked about it, but I could give you the same answer. It doesn't
But
matter.
can I?
How do we do it? We just
Don't
have
move the target, Yuri.
Yeah. I think
Not a-
we just moved the target though from the root problem though, because sorry, I just want to say this. I don't think it's important at all, because if you can solve one of these problems and at the same time solve the other problem, then both of them can be the root cause. I don't think we need to come up with
no.
just one root cause.
No, but the root cause, the idea of a root cause is very specific. Otherwise, it's not a root cause.
Yes,
It's
there is no root
causality.
cause. Root cause is human imagination, you know, because we imagine these systems of scarcity and trade, and we fuck things up. You know, we say
No.
that it's human, it's the brain. It's like, don't go, you go farther and farther and farther. We can never reach. I stopped the trade because it provides us some tools. That's why I did that. You can say trade is scarcity is underneath trade. So what? So what? If I focus on scarcity, what do you want? What is the approach? What can I do? What can I do with that?
No, but we're talking about the operational level.
You don't answer.
If you go deeper, well, that's the point. I'm trying to address, but you keep moving the whole thing. So if scarcity is the problem of the operating system, we gotta change trade. And
Okay.
to your answer, it doesn't matter how you do it, just do it. That's what you said.
Yeah.
So my point is as valid as yours. So why focus on trade if we can focus on
Because there
scarcity?
is nothing
If the
that we can
answer
do with
can
that.
be the
That's
same.
why.
Okay, so how will you deal with scarcity if you're not going to focus on trade? Without focusing on trade, how will you deal with scarcity?
Okay, so again, the deeper problem, and that's the point.
No, this problem.
Sure, no, sure. The problem on the operational level is scarcity that leads to the need for trade.
And
Cool. How do we fix that? Sure.
Okay, so,
So
you're defining scarcity as a need for trade.
What?
Are you defining scarcity as a need for trade? I might be misunderstanding.
If you mean as a source, yes.
Oh, the source.
The
Okay.
need the need for trade comes from a scarce environment. They start trading because there's scarcity environment of the resources.
Okay.
So that's the operational level. How do you solve that? If you have power already, you can change physically. And I've been talking about it. You can just build the factories. If you have the money, if you have the people, have the support, you can find it. Maybe just make people follow it without even knowing about any of this. No, just exemplifying that if you have the power to build the factories and build the systems, do that. But the deeper problem is, again, as you talk, is ignorance. So if we all knew about the problems and possible solutions, we would be working on them right now. So we would be tackling scarcity to generate a trade-free society. So that's really the thing you talk about. I make videos, he makes videos, I make videos as well. But the thing is,
None of that addresses scarcity, right? Is that what you're trying to get at?
No, not at all. What I'm trying to get at is, the videos are for the educational part, solve ignorance, that then can finally work on solving scarcity that leads to trade free in this understanding. So if making videos, you're not reaching 200 million people, you're not reaching the millions of people, you're failing. You're not, it's not an example of, okay, education doesn't work. It's an example of you don't know how to do it. Go get better at it.
Sure, okay. I mean, we made the video, it is trade free, and you, Fury, find out that it's not reaching the people, right? And you're saying that because it's not able to reach people, there's some scarcity in access in that kind.
We are going to move. We are going to move around the same things all over and over again, and I don't think it's. I think we have to stop because it's just too much. It's just too much, and I explain, I think, very well in the book. And next time, please, if you can at least, if you can read the book at least point by point, you like bullet points there. You put there and say, okay, I disagree this, I disagree that. because else we spin around and we explain the same things, and I don't think we reach any discussion. I don't like such discussions because they are ping pong discussions. Some talks, some other talks, ping pong. I like the discussions that are more writing, because I have to think about that. Give me some examples, source something there. Let's engage more into that kind of conversation. And Yuri, if you want, we have a Riot discussion channel, and you can write there, and we can focus on points. Because here we tend to just go on so many directions, and I wrote that book for a year and a half for a reason. If people could at least go through it and see the sources and so forth. So I think that's enough from this, because it's just too much. I feel like it's just too much, and it's like 3 hours now, and
Yeah, 3 hours.
and yeah, we have
It's been 3 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours.
Oh,
And
man.
here's the thing, Yuri, don't get it wrong. It's very good that you ask these questions, and it's very good that you maybe disagree or whatever you call that, because else we will be here and we'll just agree with each other, and this will not lead anywhere. We just like scratch our backs and that's it. So it's very good that you disagree. I'm just saying that there are two reasons to ask questions. One reason is to learn, and another reason is to just put people into a corner. So don't try to. I feel sometimes, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I feel like you're trying to put some questions that we don't have exact answers, because there are questions without an answer, like what's your plan, what are the numbers and so forth. I hope you don't ask those questions just to come up with an excuse to say like, okay, they don't have the answer, I have to move. I hope you answer the questions to learn something, because I'm trying to do that as well. Maybe I do my own I have my own mistakes, and I don't pay attention sometimes. Maybe I don't know. But for the past days, this discussion with trade and scarcity, actually, I lost a lot of sleep on that. I wasn't able to go to sleep early because I was thinking maybe they are right. Let's think about scarcity. I've read again some stuff. It bothers me, but it is good. I lose sleep over it, but it's good because I learn stuff. And I hope that other people lose sleep over what we say. That's what I want to say.
And same with me, like when we were having the discussion with the group, the private chat or whatever, I'm trying to listen to what you guys say, and that's why I chose to write back, to actually analyze what you guys are saying, and then to analyze both situations, not just to take Tio's side or Tom's point of view, but to actually, trying to figure this out, so I hope that's what we're all doing.
Yeah, no, I would just say that I'm deeply interested. I wouldn't waste my time if it's just, I don't enjoy, just discussing, as I said. I just don't enjoy conflict or anything. Not that this is conflictuous, but, the discussion.
No, we get it.
Yeah, but
it's great that you are so passionate. Actually, it's great that you are trying to come up with some questions that maybe will make us think, and maybe we come up with questions that make you think. It's good. I like such people. I hate such people, but I like such people. You bother me. I fucking hate you. I don't want to be my friend. For you to be my friend, because you'll be very annoying. But I love you in TROM-Cast. It's a love and hate relationship here. You cannot live with people who are disagreeing with each other, but it's good to disagree sometimes. That's why we make TROM-Cast. It's good to disagree. It is good.
Sure, it's mutual. just one last thing, I would suggest that causality. In my understanding, that's a fundamental difference. Is that there is a causality. So maybe you want to look into that a little bit. You're suggesting me a book, so maybe I'll suggest you some reading as well. The causality, if you can, but also deeply. I just would like to propose the following. In logic and fallacies and things like that, there's the idea that if you claim something, you got to provide the proof. I don't have to disprove your point. You got to provide the proof. So that's what I'm looking for. That's the basis of what I'm looking for. What's the proof that I should spend my time pursuing this, or other people should spend their time, Because if there's no proof, I just have to believe. And that's what I'm looking for. It's honest. It's an honest quest to find out if it's really feasible to do it, because I don't like wasting my time.
Read the book.
Of most problems, I try to provide
Read the book.
as a proof. I try to provide that as a proof. That's why I source so many sources and documentaries and so forth. And that's just one book. We wrote
Yeah.
many books and have documentaries and so forth. And if you disagree
It's
with
a
something,
good
I think
book to
it
read.
applies the same. It applies the same for people who disagree. If you disagree on something, make it more scientific. And say, I disagree on this point because of this. You have the opportunity to also like, you can write a book for Trom, and we can review it, and we go to sources, and we do this since TDP Magazine. It's a great way for people to disagree with you and be like, I disagree with you. I will show you how scarcity is the source of most problem. I'll write a book. I'll source it very, very well, and then we can discuss it point by point. That's the perfect way. It's bothering me to do that because it's fucking like I want to do other things too, but I'm so passionate about this that I cannot stop. So if you want to change my mind, I think you can change it if you make it scientific and insist on doing that. So yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to convince you. I want to convince millions of people. So that's why I prefer to not write books or articles, but this longer path of trying to get to making movies to reach people. I stopped. I translated. I don't think that helps at all. Translating videos maybe does a hit, but I want to get to the videos. That's more interesting for me to invest. Making these points that I'm making here. Why scarcity is a problem, but in video, that's more interesting to me. So I'm not sure I will contribute to writing a book about it, but maybe at some point you see a video or a film.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
anytime send us over email or whatever you want, you send it, and believe me, I'm interested. I just cannot contain myself. Sometimes it hurts me because I'm like, fuck, I'm so sleepy, but now I want to see this argument. That's why I'm doing this for the past 10 years. I'm passionate about it, so that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing.
And I think maybe a few people know like how much effort Tio actually puts into this. Like first thing in the morning, like actually all he does all day is Trom, is all this work. Most people have like jobs and like hobbies and stuff. Tio doesn't have. No, but basically all he does is this. Most of this
Yeah,
stuff.
I just don't want to put myself
He takes some small breaks.
or anything like that. I think anybody who focuses on such things, it's an interesting human being because you do that for a reason. You care about such fucking things. Even if you disagree, you fucking care. I can see that you care. I care too. That's why we have this kind of discussions in like 3 hours or so. So in the end, I think that's good. I'm sure it will push up some ideas and may change some minds. So we'll see. We'll see. Thank you. I really thank you for participating. Even if I hate you, I love you here. So.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So we won't have any like news or anything like that this TROM-Cast because it's too fucking long. And next TROM-Cast will be about something else. If people want to discuss about this subject, please contact us through other means like email or Trom Riot, and you go on tromsite.com and you can find your ways. There, the longest TROM-Cast will,
Yeah.
Not scarcity.
The fucking Cody, don't start it, man. This is the fucking end.
All right.
Okay, guys. Thank you for participating, honestly.
No, thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
See you.
Yeah.
See you guys.